as 1.9% APR for well-qualified buyers. 3 years of Infinity Care included, scheduled maintenance covered. So do not wait. Take advantage of the end-of-the-month incentives now at Tim Daly Infinity, where luxury meets performance. 4594 South State Street. Come on by and say hi. Or if you just want to give me a high five. I'm in the mood to give out high fives today. We will do that on the program on this Wednesday afternoon. Happy Wednesday to you. Halfway through that work week and one day closer to the weekend. And hopefully maybe you're one of the lucky ones that already has some time off during the holiday seasons. Happy holidays to you from all of us here at ESPN 700. We will be out and about tomorrow at the road home. It is one of my favorite things that we do every year. I think this will be close to my 20th year out there, thereabouts, both with this station and the old show back in the day. Me and Gordon used to go out there every single year. So we will let you know how you can get involved as you are able to donate to the road home and help those in need for our annual Mediathon coming up tomorrow and Friday out in Midvale. So it's a spot where you can, if you're looking for a place to donate money this holiday season and you want to be sure that that money is actually used the way it's supposed to be, as opposed to the board of directors taking trips to Cabo every week as starters of a nonprofit and suddenly they're traveling the world. Road home is a safe spot for you to essentially donate your cash and know that it's used for a good cause. So that will be tomorrow and Friday. So we're out and about the rest of the day today with a busy Wednesday show. Of course, the latest on the historic, I'm going to call it, transfer of power as we kind of inch along day by day. It does appear that there's more than meets the eye with Kyle Whittingham stepping down as the head coach of the University of Utah and Morgan Scalley taking over after the Vegas Bowl on New Year's Eve against Nebraska. Utah, 16.5-point favorite, by the way, in that game. So we are high-speed ahead to bowl season. We've had a couple of bowls so far. Of course, Utah, Nebraska on New Year's Eve. Our pregame coverage will start 4 hours before kick, as it always does, as your home of the Utes. On the 27th, we will see Georgia Tech and BYU. BYU only a 4.5-point favorite in the Pop-Tarts Bowl down in Orlando. If there's ever been a more perfect BYU bowl destination, I'm not sure what it is. Pop-Tarts in Orlando? Oh, man. BYU fans going crazy for that one. Bronco Mendenhall and Utah State. They'll go bowling coming up on Monday in another apropos spot for a local school. Utah State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl taking on Wazoo. So bowl season is upon us. The college football playoff will get going coming up this week. We actually have a couple of games going on today. Old Dominion, South Florida. Camping World Stadium in Orlando. Louisiana and Delaware. That is the 68 Ventures Bowl, whatever the hell that means. And then high speed ahead to Thursday, which is Missouri State, Arkansas State. And then the college football playoff will begin on Friday. The first CFP game will be Alabama and Oklahoma in Norman at Memorial Stadium. So Kalen DeBoer addressed the media today in preparation for their matchup and, of course, was asked about the Michigan job. And he said what you would expect any coach to say, and nothing to see here. It's not a distraction for our team. There are plenty of people that are of the mindset that Coach Witt would entertain a phone call should his phone light up and the iPhone indicates that the call is coming from Ann Arbor, Michigan. We'll get to the latest with those rumors and talk about all things Utah football, all things college football today. Miami, Texas A&M on Saturday. Kyle Field, College Station. Tulane, Ole Miss. We've got James Madison, Oregon. So we've got a lot of college football coming up, and we are kind of inching closer and closer to the time of the year in the NFL where we can look ahead to the postseason and look ahead to the playoffs and look ahead to some teams that are already looking at the offseason. Tua Tagovailoa has been benched. Quinn Ewers will play against the Bengals. Puka Nacua making the rounds today, criticizing NFL officials. I would imagine Puka is going to be a little bit lighter in the wallet as a result of his comments today. And your weekend ahead in pro football starts with what should be a really good one tomorrow night on Prime Video. It's the Rams and the Seahawks from Lumen Field in Seattle. We'll have that game for you on our station after we say goodnight from the road home tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. So a lot to do on the show. The New York Knicks are your NBA Cup champs. And I'm going to eat a little crow on the show today. after watching the game last night. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought that I would. As we always do, we try to watch pro basketball through the prism of what we can learn about the Utah Jazz and where they're at in this progress. So we'll get to NBA storylines on the show today with a good guest list, as you guys have come to expect on this radio show every day with our Rolodex and Porter banging the pavement every day to try to make sure he gets good guests. Our first guest, college football insider. That's right. Sorry, CK, that's what you are. Chris Kamrani, who typically will join us live in studio, doesn't really join us live on site because he doesn't seem to enjoy people and doesn't like to leave his house, which I understand. Chris Kamrani, right off the top today. Automatic Andy, my best friend, Andy Phillips, former Utah kicker, will join us. The legacy of Coach Witt, what's next under Morgan Scalley. And we'll just talk about some college football storylines with Andy today. Tim McMahon, NBA Daily Assist style, the latest with the Utah Jazz. A change of lineup for Will Hardy against the Mavericks, and what does that indicate as far as the intent of the Jazz the rest of the way? And then Jenna Finch, who is a new anchor in town and a coworker of mine over at KUTV, had a chance to meet Jenna at lunch the other day, and she hit the ground running. Dave Fox, taskmaster, has sent her down to a hockey game, sent her down to a Jazz game. She's new to our market, and I thought we'd get to know her a little bit on the show. I believe she comes to us from Arizona. A very talented young woman and a new member of the KUTV family, just like I am, our new TV partner, as we're going to have a lot of synergies and cross-promotions with our friends over at KUTV. So we're bringing Jenna today. Chris Kamrani, Andy Phillips, Tim McMahon, Jenna Fish, me, Spence Checketts. Hello, how are you? Happy Wednesday as you're halfway through that work week and one day closer to the weekend. Thank you for your ears today and every day. And back in our Broadway media studios is where we find a fan of the NBA Cup champion New York Knicks. Hello, Porter Larson. How are you, young man?
There we go. Hang a banner. I know. I don't even really think that they should be playing the midseason gimmicky tournament, but I'm glad that the Knicks are playing good basketball. It's maybe a good look towards what they could be in the spring, which is always most top of mind. But hey, we'll enjoy it. We'll enjoy it while we have it. It's a title.
And let me follow up with this. Did you watch it? Did you watch the game last night?
Yeah, I caught most of it.
Okay, and I did too, and I will admit that I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it for one reason. The players played really, really hard. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I mean, once you get down to that final game, there's money on the line, there's bragging rights on the line. It was better than a lot of the regular season games we've seen in the last few weeks. So I'll admit to that. It's just to me, it is still kind of putting off late season meaningful basketball, even though it is it's throwing a bone to the fans at least. It's just not something that totally resonates with me, although the game last night was fun, it was competitive, and they played hard. Yeah,
well said. All right, we are live today at Tim Daly Infinity. It is their end of the month and end of the year sales event. If you have waited to purchase a vehicle all year, congratulations, you win, because you can save up to $9,000 off MSRP on select new Infiniti models. Interest rates as low as 1.9 APR for well-qualified buyers. 3 years of Infiniti Care included with scheduled maintenance covered. Don't wait. Take advantage of the end-of-the-month incentives now at Tim Daly Infiniti, where luxury meets performance. 4594 South State Street. Come on by and say hello. All right, Chris Kamrani will bat leadoff on a Wednesday afternoon. But prior to Chris stopping by on this Wednesday, courtesy of our good friends and your good friends at Prize Picks, it's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
All right, our friends at Prize Picks are giving you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. It is the best place to win some cash on football as we have bowl season upon us. And also, your best chance to win money on basketball right now with the NBA going on, pro basketball going on as well. So they've got a new feature where you can cash out early if your lineup gets off to a hot start. And if your fantasy football season is over, you can play fantasy football every single week on Prize Picks. You pick your favorite players, and when they hit their projections, you win cash. But step number one is to download that Prize Picks app today and use the promo code ESPN700, and they're going to hook you up with $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700. And they're going to hook you up with $50 when you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. All right, let me remind you that ESPN 700 and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. Drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer. Visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer location. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home as we broadcast live today at Tim Daly Infinity. If you're out and about and you want to come on in and say hello, we'd love to meet you at 4594 South State Street with great deals on vehicles priced to move. All right, I will eat some crow today because I'm okay doing that. A lot of guys in our business that are terrified of being wrong, and ultimately with social media, they throw a bunch of darts against the dartboard, and the one that actually hits they focus on and then ignore everything else and try to just run from responsibility when they're incorrect. I do not do that. I've been wrong a lot, and I also have been used as a pawn to further messaging from people who have their own agenda. We talked about this with our buddy Gordon Monson yesterday live in studio. If you missed that hour-long conversation with Gordon, it was really, really good. Go to ESPN700sports.com. But I've often said that I applaud the initiative of leagues and sports that are willing to try new things, that are willing to look at issues and try to find solutions to those issues in order to bring a better product to the consumer, because that ultimately is what this is all about. For years and years and years, the most antiquated sport, in my opinion, was clearly baseball for a lot of reasons. Not just, and look, baseball purists are among the biggest pearl clutchers in the sports ecosystem because they don't believe anything should be changed ever. But the fact of the matter is you do have to change with the times, and you have to adjust to what this generation that's a little bit younger in consuming your content, what they want and where they get it and where they kind of exist day to day. That's why you hear a lot of conversation about meeting the consumer where they're at. And, simply put, these days that means on your cell phone and oftentimes on social media, where it's become more of a highlight-driven generation than like a generation that's going to sit down and watch a 4-hour baseball game or watch an entire football game. They want highlights. They want it on their phone. They want it on their social feeds. So much so that there's plenty. And The Athletic did a really cool study on this a couple of years ago, basically taking a poll on what these young people watch for. And what they found is, when this is mostly a pro basketball dynamic, where a lot of young young people, latch on to players and not teams. They're Steph fans, they're Kyrie fans, they're LeBron fans. And the reason for that is pretty simplistic. Steph is an exception, but most of these other players have become mercenaries that will sell their services with no loyalty to a team or a community in exchange simply for a paycheck. Now, on the other side of it, owners and teams don't have a lot of loyalty to these players, and they've shown that over the years that once you can no longer serve them, they will cut you, they will trade you. So the player empowerment movement certainly is something that a lot of people have kind of knocked on as something that sours them to what this game means. But when it comes to the ability of players to decide where they want to essentially execute their craft, because make no mistake, these are the most talented players and athletes in the world. And in any other area of industry or commerce, if you are the best at what you do in the world, you get to decide where you do that more often than not all the time. So, when it comes to players moving around, I do think it makes it a little bit difficult to latch on to, a player if he's going to leave your market. And we talked about this now with college football, where year over year, these guys are leaving, and it makes it hard for a community to kind of latch on to them and get to know who they are. But it's a long way of me saying last night watching the Knicks and the Spurs in the NBA Cup Championship was a little bit of an eye-opening moment for me as a outspoken critic of this tournament that feels a little bit mundane and not very important to the average NBA consumer. the players showed up, and they played really hard. Now, it's interesting that it's actually the Knicks that were able to get this win because Karl Anthony Towns has never won anything as a college or a pro player. I mean, he's not known as a winner. He's known as a talented, skilled big man that hasn't won very much. And so you could tell that it meant a lot to him in a way that maybe it didn't mean a lot to Jalen, who's won a national championship. We saw former Jazzman Jordan Clarkson step in and play well. But ultimately, for somebody like me who's talked about the NBA regular season with a dismissive attitude, because oftentimes NBA teams employ workers that don't want to show up to execute their craft and don't give a rip about the average fan. And that's just the new reality of the league, where players, if they don't feel like playing, they just don't play. It's not every night, and it's not all the time, but it's too much for my taste. So credit Adam Silver for looking for something to maybe solve this issue. And who knows if it remains? Who knows if it continues to reverberate? But for one night at least, I thought it was good basketball between two really good teams to showcase the NBA on a very large stage on Amazon Prime. All right, we'll catch a break. We'll bring in Chris Kamrani from The Athletic today as our first guest right out of the gates. But we're live today at Tim Dahle Infinity, and my man Terrence Thompson stops by. Put that right by your mouth. Yeah, there you go. How are you, man?
What's up? Doing really good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I appreciate the time today. So tell me about this end-of-the-month sales event. What do you want our listeners to know?
Yeah, so here at Tim Dahle Infinity, we have our end-of-month sales event going on right now. So you can either save up to $9,000 off MSRP, or you can either take our interest rates as low as 1.9% APR for well-qualified buyers.
Now, let's be clear. You can't do both, right? It's one or the other.
One or the other.
Okay, right on. How long have you worked here?
For about a year now.
About a year? You like it?
I love it.
Is Koo still here?
Yeah, he's still here.
Is he taking care of you?
Oh, 100%.
Because if he doesn't, I've known him since college. I'll handle him.
He's the man.
Yeah, he is the man. So pick out, one of your favorite vehicles and sell me on it. What's like one of your favorite vehicles you have priced to move?
Well, right here on the showroom, we have our 2026 QX80 Sport.
Okay.
That's a new addition to the lineup. I know last year's generation, they had the Sensory, but the Sport's coming in to replace that. It has way more of an aggressive look by appearance. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of features in there, and plus, too, my most favorite part is going to be that dark navy interior.
Oh, nice.
The appearance is beautiful. Eye-catching on the road. It has a really, really intimidating road presence, and I love them.
They're beautiful vehicles. I mean, every time I'm out here, I don't know that – I mean, Infinity is like a legitimate luxury brand, right?
100%.
Like, it is a top-end car, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, it's one of the biggest competitors to Cadillac and Lincoln. But, once you actually get well-rounded around these vehicles, you'll come to realize these are much better, dude.
Yeah. Tell me about – so 3 years of Infinity Care is included in any purchase. Tell me what Infinity Care is.
So – included with any new vehicle, you get 3 years of Infinity Premium Care.
Okay.
What that includes is for 3 years, you get maintenance and servicing, as well as that, too. You do get valet services and loaner vehicles.
Okay.
So,
is that done through the dealership, or is that done through Infinity?
it's done through the dealership.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very nice. Well, look, man, I appreciate you stopping by. I know some of your coworkers were nervous, but if you want to do it, I'll make it easy on you. So good to meet you, okay?
Well, I'm here. Nice meeting you.
All right, come on by. That's my man, Terrence Thompson. Come out and ask for him so he gets the commission at 4594 South State Street at Tim Dahle Infinity. It's their end-of-the-month sales event where you can save up to $9,000 on select new Infinity models or get an interest rate that's as low as 1.9 APR for well-qualified buyers. 3 years of Infinity Care included, which is scheduled maintenance. And do not wait. Take advantage of the end-of-the-month incentives now at Tim Dahle Infinity, where luxury meets performance. We will catch our first break of this Wednesday show and bring in our college football insider, Chris Kamrani, coming up on the other side of a Wednesday edition of The Drive. And it's good to have you along for the ride right here on ESPN 700. Avondale Infinity. It is 4594 South State Street is where you find us. It's their end of the month and end of the year sales event where you can save up to $9,000 on MSRP on select new Infinity models, or let's not get greedy, kids. Interest rates as low as 1.9% APR for well-qualified buyers. 4594 South State Street. Come on by and say hi. I think I'm just only about maybe 10 to 12 minutes from where the Camerani household resides, but this rain and cold, I would imagine CK has you bunkered up at home. Is that fair?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's raining, man. It's windy, and you're asking a lot of your guy. I'll just say that.
No, that's fair. I don't know that I know this about you, but big Christmas guy and attendant to the question has becoming a father improved your Christmas holiday season experience?
I'll start with the second. Yes, okay. Even though I don't buy my kid gifts because he's spoiled enough as it is, I let everybody else handle that. And the big man in the North Pole also provides a big assist, alley-oop dunk for dad. And to get to the first part, yeah, I mean, Home Alone 2, Christmas Vacation. Wasn't a big Christmas Story movie guy as a kid. I know that was, a point of emphasis for a lot of folks. It wasn't really in the rotation, but loved the tree, loved the music. Weirdly, I would take snow right now, man. Like I'm going to sound a little sacrilege on the drive and say like it would be a little better if there was white stuff on the ground.
It's better than this. I mean, a lovely snowstorm would be better than this for sure. Little known Checketts family fact: Christmas Story not allowed in the Checketts household because the leg lamp was inappropriate. You think I'm kidding? I'm not at all.
You got me. I wasn't ready for that. Well, I mean, listen, man. The mind wanders. Idle hands, right?
It does. It does. Impure thoughts are the workshop of the devil, Chris. Moving on. You've been a busy boy. We'll talk about your work coming up in just a bit with a couple of good stories on the national level of college football. But, of course, we have to start with what has been a historic, and I'm calling it a transfer of power, Chris, as Kyle Whittingham is elected to leave peacefully without denying results and step aside for Morgan Scalley to take over after the Vegas Bowl on New Year's Eve. Just give me your overall thoughts now that we know the news is official.
Not surprised, a little still at odds of how it went down publicly. Don't know how much Kyle and Morgan will share about, discussions and everything behind the scenes when they talk to the beat writers and local folks. I think Kyle talks tomorrow, but, when you prepare for a bowl game, everybody's available. So there will be mics in front of people in the coming weeks, but I guess I have to give credit where credit's due. Classic Friday news dump. Give it a B+ grade. But interesting timing. Interesting that you give it less than 24 hours later, you announce that Morgan Scalley is officially the head coach on a Saturday. Just kind of an interesting rollout, but I understand that you're up against it in a sense with. You just came off of early National Signing Day, or what is National Signing Day now, on the heels of this private equity deal being announced. And, the fact that Kyle had to let the university know of his plans. But as we learned quickly on Friday, that the plans seem to have been altered a bit. Kyle is not retiring. And, sources have told The Athletic that Kyle is still very much interested in coaching. So, an interesting curveball to deal with. And we will see how the leaves shake out from the trees in the coming weeks. Let's just say that.
And we will get there. But before we do, what does your gut tell? Was this a peaceful transfer of power, or in a matter of 2 days will we see Kyle Whittingham supporters storming Rice Eccles?
You're spicy today, man. This rain is really got you moving. Breakups are rarely clean and rarely amicable. This one was always going to be interesting because I think I think Kyle would be the first one to tell you that he mistakenly mentioned once upon a time, 5 or 6 years ago, that he wasn't going to coach beyond 65. He basically put a running clock on himself. And for the last 5 to 6 years, it's been a will you, won't you, be coming back type deal. And, Morgan Scalley was named the head coach in waiting twice. And I think for some folks around here and presumably some folks who have deep pockets and sway behind the scenes, they were ready for a change and ready to see what Morgan could do. And now we have that in front of us. But suffice to say, it was always going to be, how do I say this? It was always going to be a peaceful transfer of power. Is that what you're calling it? Is that what we're saying? A changing of the guard. How about a changing of the guard? How does that work?
No, that works. Again, when we utilize this kind of analogy, I just have to wonder whether or not Witt accepted the results or if he's going to file a lawsuit against the voting machines that were fraudulent. Bottom line is this. Something doesn't smell right, okay? We had Monson on yesterday in studio for an hour, and Gordo, he dusted off the fastball, man. I mean, he talked about the Friday news dump, lack of press conference, introducing Morgan. I mean, look, if everything was copacetic here, it would not have gone down the way that it did. Is that fair to say?
I don't know, because Kyle said before the Kansas State game, like, I'll be here one day, gone the next. But you could take that and interpret that in a multitude of ways. If he felt like he was not wanted anymore, you could take it that way. Or if he was stepping away on his own volition, you could also take it in that way too. It is interesting just because, like, you talk about having, I think, they had a press conference after the private equity deal was announced, and obviously you need to talk about something of this magnitude, and you have lots of questions from folks locally and nationally. I think you will have some state media members say, this is what Kyle wanted. Morgan is not a big press conference guy. He doesn't want to make it about himself. They're preparing for a game. To that, I would say, stop it, because you're getting ready for a Vegas bowl game that you've been to before. You're playing a team that has just lost its star quarterback. You should win by 20 points. Like, this is not Utah preparing for the Rose Bowl or even preparing for the Pop-Tarts Bowl. This is a totally different beast. So I don't know the mechanics of this rollout and why it ended up the way it did, but usually when there is a new head coach after 21 years, regardless of if the move was expected or not, you generally introduce the new guy and get to, roll out the red carpet and do the whole red tie and smiles and hold the football and do all that thing. And maybe that's coming, but it just seems like it could have been part of the rollout, so to speak. But again, I don't know. I'm not on the beat anymore, so I'm just pontificating here, as a lot of other people are.
No, well, look, there are enough partial truths to distract and co-opt the minds of non-critical thinkers, where it's like, oh, wait, you don't believe elections are fraudulent? Well, wait, you don't believe we should have people utilize IDs to have mail-in voting? It's early. Like, there are enough things you can say to distract people that can't count to 20 with their shoes on. But if you think this is just all about head-down bowl prep, not available to have a press conference where you just kind of have just a moment of the changing of the guard, then I've got a plot of land to sell you, wherever land is no longer valuable. I couldn't think of a spot off the top of my head. Now, I want to be clear, like you, I've got nothing here. What I do have are several people reaching out to me, indicating that their opinion is that there was some serious dissent behind the scenes, namely people that I would say would absolutely know, basically say that Kyle did not want to step down and was actually looking for maybe some more money and maybe even some more years. Now, the other thing that's caught me off guard, and I'm going to simply acquiesce to people that are more connected to folks up there than I am behind the scenes, because you know the deal, when you're a media member, it's hard to get people to talk on record, and they're terrified to actually tell you the truth because all they want to do is propagate their message to the fan base, because most fans will simply believe the team believe the school, believe the player, and I don't even know how many fans really want the real stuff. But the other, every single Utah alum I've had on the show, and we're going to have Andy Phillips join us as well, so I think he'll be the 7th player we've had since Friday. All of them were surprised that Witt stepped down. All of them expected him back for another year. Now, I didn't. But if the players that are in the loop are unanimous in their surprise with their reaction, it's got to mean something. I don't know what, and I'm not saying he was forced out. I'm not saying Taylor Randall, Mark Harlan forced him out. I'm not saying the relationship with Morgan was so frayed that at some point something had to give. But I just, my initial reaction before I've had all these conversations was very simple, and that is Kyle thought it was time. But now that time has passed and more information has been shared with me and players have been giving public comments on the show that they didn't expect it, that has to mean that at least there's smoke. I'm not saying there's fire, but it has to mean that at least there's smoke with this.
Well, it would behoove everybody to sit behind a microphone or several microphones and face these questions.
Right.
But we don't know what the next few weeks will look like. Maybe that will happen. Maybe it won't. But it is fascinating to think that the first time that anybody really is speaking in the wake of Kyle stepping down and Morgan being elevated is the traditional Kyle after practice tomorrow. Like that to me is, and maybe Kyle will open up. I highly doubt it. But like I said, it would behoove everybody, Kyle, Morgan, Mark Harlan, Taylor Randall, get those 4 guys up on a dais and ask them tough questions. Like, nobody cares about Nebraska's turnover to touchdown ratio. Nobody, honestly. Like, and if you do, I guess Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you. But honestly, like, I think Utah would do itself a favor. It would do its fan base a favor by just making people available to face these types of questions. And like I said, maybe they do in the coming weeks. Maybe they do after the bowl game. The bowl game is the 31st. I believe Kyle is officially the head coach through January 1st. But who knows? Will Kyle want to do something like that when the game's over? Will he want to just move on? I don't know. I can't speak to what you've been told. But if the players have come on your show and all said they expected Kyle back, that means that they were in the know and that they were expecting Kyle to come back. So that means that a lot of folks were operating under the assumption wrongly, like primarily folks like yourself, myself, other folks in the media that thought that Kyle wanted to be done. Maybe Kyle did not want to be done. Maybe he did want to keep going. That's why when we were told on Friday that Kyle still has ambition to coach, I mean, the tea leaves, I can throw any sort of corny idiom at you and you can go with it where you want with it. But the truth is always somewhere in the middle, as Spence Checketts says.
Yes, it is. In most everything, two people have their sides of the story, and the truth usually lies in between the two stories. But when it comes to your colleague, Stuart Mandel, my understanding is most of those relationships with him are agent-driven. So is it insane to connect the dots that Witt's agent reached out to Stu during kind of this reaction of the announcement when there's a lot of attention on Kyle to say, hey, get this out there, that he's not retiring and he still has interest in coaching? Is that the most logical way to surmise how this went down?
I mean, it depends on how you want, how the cookie crumbles. It's like you said, some people want the truth, other people want to believe what they want to believe. But The Athletic wasn't the only prominent national outlet to report that Kyle still has a desire to coach. Nicole Auerbach at NBC reported the same thing not too long after. This is the reality. This is the coaching carousel. If you don't understand how it works, welcome to the party.
Yeah, and it does lend to, lead and lend to a conversation about what Act Two for him would look like. And I referenced the good reporting of Jason Batakiao in the Salt Lake Tribune. Jason got on the phone with Alex Whittingham within the first couple of hours after the announcement went down. Alex himself all but said, yeah, he told me that he wants to be a part of helping another team win. So it just leads to the space of what Act 2 for him would look like. The other piece of information that maybe you knew, but I did not, that the Tribune was able to get, is initially Kyle's post-coaching package at Utah was a 5-year situation where he'd be a special advisor to the athletic director or the football team. And during that 5-year period, he'd be paid about, $900K, thereabouts. Well, last year, he amended it. He had his agent amend it to a 2-year deal where he'd get paid about $3.6 million per. And I just don't think it's a coincidence that after certain people have been hired and been around for a number of years, Kyle does not have the interest of doing that for 5 years, but doesn't want to get his money, so he limits it to 2, where he can be paid $3.6 million. I don't know the contract well enough to understand if he takes another job, what that means. I mean, common sense would say if you take another job, that deal's off the table. And so unless it's some sort of like Michigan comes to the table, $11 million per year, guaranteed 5 years, full autonomy, here's your, and unless it's a ready-made slide in and you're good right away. If I had to give you my best guess, CK, 2 years, $3.6 million, sounds like you don't really have to do much unless you're called upon. Ride your bike, play your golf, play your tennis, ski the snow, hang out with the kids, hang out with the grandkids for 2 years. And then at that point, at the age of 68, I believe, special teams defensive quality control coach next to my friend Andy Reid for the Chiefs seems to make the most sense. If I had to give you my best guess, Act 2 for Witt, if there is one, what do you think it looks like?
It's interesting you brought that up because I disagree with that. I think Kyle is the type of guy who wants to run his ship. He is he's a guy. He's an alpha football guy. I don't necessarily see him wanting to, deal with. Oh, we got to sign this guy off of waivers to come in and be the special teams gunner. Got to make sure that we keep Britton Covey in those lines when the Chiefs play the Eagles in a couple of years. Doesn't really I don't really see that, and that's why if you're talking about extreme hypotheticals, the Michigan thing would make a lot of sense if the dominoes were to fall that way. I mean, and then granted, there are a ton of dominoes. Like Michigan definitely doesn't have Kyle Whittingham in its top 3, probably not in its top 5, but you have one guy playing on Friday night who has been linked. Apparently the heat is turning up in the desert regarding Kenny Dillingham. All I'll say is that I think if Kyle is to continue coaching, my opinion, my pure, unfiltered, uninformed current opinion is that I think it would still be in a head coaching capacity somewhere. I just think that that's who he is. It's how he's basically, he climbed the ladder. He did all the grunt work for such a long time. Doesn't really strike me as the type of guy who wants to go, be an assistant special teams coach with the Chiefs or even want to be a defensive coordinator somewhere in college football.
So when it comes to, and look, I think I just had to learn some hard lessons early on where oftentimes ignorance is bliss and you believe everybody who is building a team together or is on a coaching staff together or is in a front office together, they're all going to Christmas parties together. They're all hanging out. They all like each other. And then you realize as the years go by, and I've had a front row seat to so many of these things, in my own career with front offices and building teams, and of course experiencing these things through the lens of my father, where we're at a family dinner and Pat Riley sends a fax. Yes, kids, look it up. Google a fax that he is leaving the Knicks, and he faxed his resignation, and that whole thing. Watching it play out behind the scenes and seeing exactly what happened, and then reading the New York Times and Mike Wise and reading Mike Lupica in the Daily News and realizing how little information they had about what actually went down. I thought all the 2009 RSL guys were best friends and learned years later how many fractures there were in that locker room. The Dennis Lindsey, Quinn Snyder situation where, the Trib gets the report and the whole thing like, hey, Quinn won. And then suddenly I'm getting text from Dennis and getting text from Quinn. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I thought these guys were boys. It leads me to ask you, is because the other thing that I've been told that I completely have no solid information about and surprises me is some sort of fracture between Whit and Morgan. And this could be as simple as Morgan going, okay, like I'm coaching waiting, then I'm not. You slashed my salary. Now I'm back. Thought he was leaving a couple of years. And it'd be one thing if a coordinator was just fine being a coordinator, but I think anybody who knows Morgan knows that he's wanted to be a head coach for quite some time. It could be as simple as a young coach being impatient and the old guard not wanting to necessarily give up their turf. But do you have any insight as to what that relationship looks like?
I don't, and I think we can be reductive, as we often are on the drive.
Indeed.
Monday to Friday, 2 to 5.
2 to 6.
Listen, multiple things can be true.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with Kyle. Kyle was basically at least from a public standpoint, on a year-to-year basis for 5 to 6 years. Morgan Scalley was the head coach in waiting for, I can't remember. I mean, he got it taken away in 2020, then he got it put back 2 years later. So he's been the head coach in waiting off and on for the last 5 to 6 years. If you're the University of Utah, if you're the athletic department, if you're the boosters, if you're the fan base, at what point does it make sense to keep investing in a guy that you don't know will be around all that longer versus turning the page and say, let's give the lifer, the former player, the son of a former player, the guy who's been on the coaching staff for almost 20 years, when is it time to turn the page and make it his turn? Like, there are multiple things can be true at the same time. So I don't have any insight into what Kyle and Morgan's relationship is or was, but like, you could see from at least a public standpoint why it could have been a tricky situation, and could have been a tricky situation for a very long time. You're talking about dealing with the guy who basically put your program on the national map for 20 plus years, who's been there since 1994, who put you in a place that made you relevant beyond the 801 and the 435 to a level that had never really happened before. I understand the 04 team was awesome, but how many times have we seen programs be a flash in the pan, nationally, whether it's in college football or basketball, things fade. The hardest part for Utah wasn't going undefeated in 2004. It was sustaining itself and traversing through 3 different conferences, dealing with the advent of NIL and all this other stuff. Kyle Whittingham basically led you through those storms. He's the winningest coach in program history. He won you 2, conference titles. He got you to 2 Rose Bowls. He went undefeated one year. This is where things get tricky, because when you have somebody of Kyle's accomplishment and whose legacy is going to be unmatched, what happens when a guy like that theoretically wants to keep coaching, wants to keep doing it, believes that, hey, Utah went 10-2 this year. They win one of those games they lost, they're in the college football playoff. It's hard to extinguish, and I think people who either know him or who have just viewed him from afar for a long time, it's hard to extinguish the type of like competitive fire that somebody like Kyle Whittingham has. He's an intense dude, and everybody's joked about the calves and the workout regimen lasting every day for 365 days a year for the last 25 years or whatever. It's hard to extinguish that. So what happens when you come up what is it? A rock in a hard place? Is that
Mm-hmm.
the phrase? Like, that's where Utah found itself, I think. And now we're going to see in the coming weeks what folks up there are willing to say publicly about how this all went down. I am of the opinion, and granted I'm biased because it is my job, and I know you feel the same way, the truth, or at least a sliver of the truth, is always better than no truth at all. So my point again, it would behoove everybody to be able to get in front of a mic, whether together or separately, and face these questions, because then you can put all this speculation to rest.
And look, if we're honest about this stuff, and we can just go over some of the local examples, it's very rare that a long-time tenured coach actually leaves and it's really clean. I mean, like people forget Coach Mack was fired. Like he didn't just graciously step aside. Jerry Sloan left the day after his point guard told him to kick sand after he was trying to call a play. Rick Majerus, Google that, kids. Like the ending more often than not, CK, before we get to your work, and then I'll set you loose. For long tenured coaches who are successful and competitive, maybe Lavelle went out pretty, seamlessly. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It usually doesn't really end all that cleanly.
Well, and it boils down to how much longer a lot of these tenured, accomplished folks believe that they can do it or believe that they should do it. And listen, kids, it's really hard to turn down a life where you're basically got 95% of the deal down, meaning that you go 10-2, it's 95% of the deal. You're making $7 million a year. It's for some people, it's a hard life to step away from. For others, it's kind of like, meh, I'm good, and that's good, and that's great. But for the majority of folks, this is the business they chose. It's the life they chose. It is their identity. For good or for bad, it is hard to walk away from something when it has taken 23 of your 24 hours out of every day, out of every week, out of every month, out of every year for how long somebody like Kyle's been doing it.
Yeah, fair to say. Hey, before I set you loose, I'm going to pick one of the two stories that you've written recently. And we'll go Lane Kiffin as far as and look. First of all, did you go to Oxford? Are we talking boots on the ground?
I did not. My colleague, who I wrote the story with, Joe Rexroad, was in Oxford. Yep.
Okay. Very cool.
Yep.
Well, unpack this for us. You guys did an excellent job.
Well, I appreciate that. In the wake of Lane Kiffin's messy, dramatic exit from Ole Miss and Oxford. Colleague Joe Rexroad, who is a fantastic writer based in Nashville, bless his heart, made the trip and spent a couple days in Oxford to get a sense of what happens when your coach, who led you to the college football playoff, leaves for an arch rival, a team that you've been looking up at for forever. And there's a lot of hurt there, man. And, when Lane Kiffin leaves, it is generally not to the applause or the gracious goodbyes and waves at the airport. For those of you who saw the video footage, it's generally accompanied with a one-fingered salute. And it's not the one at the end of your hand. So what we wanted to do was talk to the folks in Oxford to get a sense of, why they felt like Lane Kiffin was the type of guy to stay there and build something and turn Ole Miss into a perennial SEC contender, to swing and throw blows with, LSU, Bama, Georgia. And it was a very enlightening story. And, I would encourage everybody to read it, primarily because of the efforts of my colleague Joe Rexroad, who, boots on the ground, goes to show that when you actually go places and talk to people, your story gets a hell of a lot better.
CK, excellent work, my friend. We will set you loose, and we'll chat soon. Happy holidays to you, Amanda, and, of course, little Leo. Be good, all right?
Thank you, sir.
All right. Andy Phillips is live on site. Okay, we have a celebrity sighting. Automatic Andy is here. If you want to take a picture, get an autograph with the greatest kicker/player in Utah football history, come on by. Where are we today? We're at Tim Daly Infinity at their end-of-the-month sales event, which is 4594 South State Street. My man Terrence Thompson stops by once again. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good. How are you doing, bro?
I'm good. Are you a sports fan at all? You're all about selling cars.
Yeah, I'm all about selling cars.
Bottom line. All right. End-of-the-month sales event. What should our listeners know?
Hey, so here at Tim Daly Infinity, we have our end-of-month sales event going on right now where you can save up to $9,000 off MSRP, or you can get our interest rates as low as 1.9% APR.
Now, bottom line, but it's not both. We need to be clear, right? You get one or the other, right?
Yeah, one or the other.
Okay, and they're both awesome deals. So just to repeat, $9,000 off MSRP or interest rates as low as 1.9 APR. Tell us about the 3 years of Infinity Care. This is a really cool thing.
Best part about it, with any new car, What's included is going to be the 3 years of Infinity Premium Care. So throughout the 3 years, you get maintenance and servicing completely covered, as well as that too, you get valet and loaner services throughout the 3 years as well.
Does the valet things, is it exactly the way it sounds? Like, what is that?
So if you live in a certain area or distance from the dealership, what we can do is pick up the vehicle from your house, bring it to the dealership, do maintenance and services, and then we can go ahead and drop it back off at your house.
It's such a great offer. 4594 South State Street. Come on by and ask for Terrence so you can get the commission, yeah?
Let me know, dude.
Okay, buddy. I'll talk to you in a bit. We'll catch a break. We've got 1 hour in the books, 3 hours to go. Automatic Andy, live on site. Joining us next on ESPN 700. What's up, dude? Is this like a remix? Are you playing a Christmas song remix, Porter? What are we doing here?
Accidentally. It says Nat King Cole, but it's a Nat King Cole remix. So, yes, I am. Sorry.
Okay, I thought you were back there
Sorry
like on the
/
ones.
You're welcome.
No. I thought you were like back there on the ones and the twos, remixing like Nat King Cole during the break, which would have been awesome.
Yeah, I'm just on the turntables.
I love it. All right, celebrity sighting on site, which I did not know we were getting today. If you've ever wanted to meet Automatic Andy Phillips, we're looking at 4594 South State Street here at Tim Daly Infinity for their end of the month event. And good enough to come on site. What's up, brother? Good to see you.
It's been so good to be here with you, man. I was on with OC yesterday, but I have to admit I prefer being in person with you versus over the phone with him. Don't tell him I said that.
Oh, I'm rubbing it in. I'm rubbing it in to Sean. I didn't know you were going to join us live, so I always appreciate it. And look, this has been a really interesting story when it comes to Witt stepping aside and Morgan taking over. The way I've tried to cover it, though, at least out of the gates initially with all the former players and people that know Kyle, just out of respect for him, the first portion of any conversation just simply has to include what he means to this community, what he means to Utah football, and kind of the debt that anyone in the Utah football ecosystem, media members, fans, obviously players and coaches, owe to Kyle Whittingham. And you played for him. So what does Witt mean to Utah football?
I mean, the legacy of football in the state of Utah, I think you think of two guys, and that's probably Lavelle Edwards and Coach Witt.
Yeah.
And whether you love him or you hate him, the dynamic that he brings to this state is just it's unmatched. Mm-hmm. From the rivalry to what he's been able to do with the program through Mountain West, Pac-12, and now Big 12. And so it's I love the man. Obviously, he's like a father to me, a mentor. Took a chance on me when he probably had a million other opportunities with others, and gave me a chance and believed in me and also pushed me. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. There's so many elements of my life that are impacted by my time spent at Utah football.
Yeah.
And my success, my grit, my ability to just live the way I want to live. I attribute a lot of those habits and a lot of those things to the culture that Coach has brought to Utah football. And I think there's a lot of former players that would say the same thing. A lot of success that they've had in life post-football has come from the culture that was created and the lessons that were learned through the grind of Utah football.
Tell me about your recruiting story. I've enjoyed this with all of my guests that have been former players. Like, I didn't even know this, but Stevenson Sylvester, Utah football coaches kind of discovered him on the basketball court because he was such a dynamic athlete. In Sly's own words, he was a better basketball player than he was a football player in high school. And, we had Zach Moss on, and Zach kind of told the story of how Witt recruited him. My favorite story so far may have been Garrett Bowles, who's with the Broncos now. And what an amazing journey that kid has been on, now considered one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. He only spent a year at Utah, but he really credited Witt in that. And, of course, Coach Harding, who's a legend, for helping him, turn his life around and become a pro. What's the Andy Phillips origin story with Utah football?
I wish I could say a coach found me on the ski slopes, when we were up at Snowbird one day. But no, pretty simple. I just finished my ski racing career and was trying to channel my energy into something else. I thought it would be soccer.
Yeah.
And watched the Utes in their first year in the Pac-12. Saw what was happening on the field, said, I know I can do better than that. And so went down to Alta High School, put some film together, and shot it off to a couple schools in the state. And Jay Hill was the one who ultimately reached back out and said, hey, I like what I see. I think you have potential. Come on up. Let's see how you work out in the weight room. Let's see how you fit in with the team. And after that summer, they liked what they saw and liked the potential, and so gave me a shot.
How long did you actually kick prior to joining the Utes, like competitively on a football field?
Well, never. I mean,
never.
I had never kicked in a game. You could say I competitively kicked against my brothers, at Alta High School.
Yeah.
They're both soccer players, and so we would back up to 50, 55, and just see who could kick this ugly line drive through the uprights. And but. I had a lot coming with me from my ski racing career.
Sure.
That I could apply straight to the football field, there wasn't much that fazed me. Pressure wasn't a big deal. I wasn't afraid to jump in the weight room with a bunch of guys and get after it.
Yeah. You did always have that reputation as being a kicker that could actually lift with the football players. Not like, due respect, like little Louis Sakota. Like you always had that reputation as somebody that could not just step in and work out in the weight room with the players, but you weren't afraid to put your nose in it on the field as well.
No, and that was part of learning the game of football. Like the year I redshirted, I was scout team linebacker and doing linebacker drills with Kalani.
Uh-huh.
And I was one of the guys on kickoff return, the scout kickoff return team that our starting kickoff guys would just come and tee off on. And so I got knocked around, and I learned a lot more getting in. And I wasn't just going to stand there and watch the kickers kick. I really wanted to get in and play, and so I was trying to contribute in every way that I possibly could.
Did that endear you? I would imagine that really endeared you to your teammates because, it feels like the Adam Sandler kicker song. Kickers oftentimes, like, Grammatica hits his head and, or celebrating and tears his ACL or whatever. And oftentimes it feels like kickers could be the brunt of a joke, but your willingness to get in there in the mix, do you think that endeared you to your teammates in a way that maybe a lot of kickers are not endeared?
I think so.
Yeah.
I gave me a little credibility, I think, initially, and then it also just built relationships, and that was critical to my success. I mean, I remember running out on the field for my first field goal, and Jake Murphy, is there, and we have a good relationship, and he's pumping me up. Same with Carl Williams, two guys that really just believed in me and what I was going to do on the field in those first couple of games, which was set me off on a great trajectory.
Yeah, it helped that you were good. I mean, it helped that you had a massive cannon of a leg. And I would imagine, because you referenced your ski racing career, like a mistake in a race when you do what you did, like your life is in danger. You shank a kick and you're all right. Like, did the pressure of those races just kind of mold your mind into the ability to focus and understand, compartmentalize just what's at stake?
I think so. The similarities are you have a routine, and in ski racing you step into the start gate and you kind of have to just relax your mind and trust in your inspection, trust in your abilities, trust in your practice. And it's really similar stepping back from a kick. And you just, if you're thinking about it, you're going to blow out in the ski race. If you're thinking about it, you're going to miss it right or miss it left. And so having the ability to control your mind and then just apply your practice to the field, I think, is what ultimately led to my success.
So I think I was asking Porter, I think you're the 7th former player for Kyle who's joined us since Friday. And so far, all 6 former players told me they were surprised that Whit has stepped down, which has surprised me because, honestly, I was kind of expecting this. You and I were talking off air after the K-State win at home. He gets emotional after the win. And what I think was underreported was the sentence he said that led him to the emotion, because he was talking about his seniors and he was talking about the win. And that was an emotional back-and-forth game. It was chaos. And so I'm sure there was just some in-the-moment emotion. But when he said their final chance at Rice-Eccles is when he got choked up. And that's when I went, okay. And so after the Kansas win, he was more honest about the potential of him actually stepping down last year than I'd ever seen him prior to. And last year, because of the injuries, turned out to be chaotic. But I'll just ask you straight up, were you expecting this, or are you surprised that Kyle's elected to step aside?
I was expecting it, personally. I wasn't too surprised by it. He and I are similar in that we're hyper competitive, and so I could see him wanting to continue to coach for as long as he can. But I think when he steps back and looks big picture, there's a lot of speculation. Michigan wants him? Is that where he goes? And it's like, you inherit all the problems of Michigan.
Yep.
Is that something that you really want to do after just leaving a successful program? So no, not surprised by it. I think there were a few tells, like you mentioned. There are a couple of lines from interviews where you're like, oh, okay, this is on his mind.
Yeah.
And then I told OC, but and shout out to Sly, but when he came out all swagged out in his Utah Man at my shirt on that home game, I thought, man, this is for the pictures. This is it. And you might not know this, but I've been recruiting Coach for the last couple of years to come and join our master ski racing program at Snowbird.
Nice.
And so We might be working out an NIL deal for him to jump into master ski racing.
Is he as legit on the hill as everybody? A mentality like that for Whit. But as you get older, it's just a more dangerous endeavor. But when he skis, does he ski the way he coaches?
Oh yeah,
huh?
Yeah, he's a block. He's a block flying down the field or down the hill.
Yeah.
He understands the fundamentals, and I think that's what makes Coach so unique is he wants to be competent in everything that he does. So he asks questions. Hey, when I'm transitioning and I'm stepping to my new ski, what should that feel like? And what is this and that? And so conceptually he gets it. Now, whether or not his body can move the way he wants it to move is a different story.
Yep.
But he flies and he has fun, and it's fun to see him up there because he likes to be incognito. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going to relate this back to how his retirement or his stepping down has gone, I think that's a big part of it. Is he's old school. Like, he doesn't want to make it about himself,
right.
And it's about the seniors on that last home game. It's about the seniors and their last time here. It's not. He's not putting himself on a pedestal saying this is my last game and making it all about him. And I think that's part of why we haven't gotten as much as we might want from him or from Morgan through this transition, because there's still a game to be played. And I know that's a cop-out. It's like it's Vegas Bowl. It's Nebraska. They just lost their quarterback to the portal. But it's typical Coach Whit fashion to make it about everybody else and to just kind of slowly, work in the shadows.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said, and all of you guys have said the same thing about, of course, the goal for any football player that makes it to the level that you made it to is to go on and play in the NFL and make some money and kick as long as you can. And you had a little bit of an experience in that direction. But the fact of the matter is, any college player that finds his way to the NFL and has a long career is a real outlier. And Kyle certainly has a lot of success stories and recent success stories. Caleb Lomu has declared for the draft. He and Spencer will be first rounders, and all that stuff is awesome. But the majority of the players that played for Kyle did not go on in pro football and make a ton of money and play for a number of years in the NFL. But it does seem like the ability to steward young men and turn them into great fathers and husbands and pillars in the community is probably something Kyle himself would say he's as proud of as anything else. The measure of the man, not the coach, for Whit. What does that sound like as far as the lessons you learned from him?
Oh, completely. I look back on my experience getting cut. I go in after having a great camp with the Bears, and Coach Fox was at the Bears at that point, and I go through that experience, and it was very adverse for me, and just having the composure and understanding the bigger picture are all lessons that I learned from Coach, and being able to face adversity, overcome it. It's not just that, but then if I look at my family, if I look at my career in real estate and the success that I've been able to have in all these different aspects of my life and my faith, I mean, Coach. The pillars for Coach were, hey, be, your physical wellness, your mental wellness, your spiritual wellness. And those are three things that I've focused on and continue to focus on. And all of that, it's all ingrained from my experiences with Utah football.
What was, I oftentimes ask, it's funny, Nate Orchard, who played in the league for about 8 years, when I asked Nate, what was the biggest adjustment from college to pro, I think that's easier to articulate when you're playing defensive end. The O-linemen are huge. They're just bigger and stronger. What's the biggest difference between kicking in college and kicking in the NFL? Because you had the leg. I mean, it wasn't about the leg, right?
No, it wasn't about the leg. And to be honest, the gentleman that I was competing with, I had out-kicked him during camp. And so I thought it was a shoe-in, but Coach Fox said, hey, my philosophy is I'm going to go with the veteran unless there's a huge discrepancy. And I think I was 87% through camp and he was 84, or something like that. And there was one moment where it was a 2-minute drill. We drove down, it's 45-yard kick. He pulls it, I go in, I put it right down the pipes, and I'm like, that's it. This is my thing. And then, a couple days later, I'm sitting on my hands, and so it's a lot different for a specialist. If you're drafted, there's guarantee or there's obligation. from a team to you. If you're a free agent, it's a lot easier. Tom experienced something very similar, right, where you're cut right before preseason. You don't have an opportunity to showcase a lot of things, and then you have to make the decision at home. Hey, here I was, a 27-year-old with 2 kids, and I had a ton of sport traveling experience through skiing and football, and it was like, man, this is nice having a Saturday and a Sunday with my wife and my kids. And I wasn't afraid of not having success or not being able to make money. That was one of my goals. Was, hey, if I'm cut, I want to still try and make the kind of money I would if I were playing the NFL. And how am I going to find that? And what career path am I going to go down? And so it wasn't about that or anything. It was just it's hard to make it as a specialist. Chase Dominguez, one of the best snappers probably I've ever seen, NFL or college. Similar experience. Went down to the Saints and cut right before preseason.
Yeah.
So it's different. It's different for every player, and I think if you try and hang your hat on whether or not you're successful in the NFL based on the decision of, administrators, you're living wrong, and you've got to see your worth for something else, for something more than it is. And I think of Zach. I listened to Zach's interview yesterday. Zach could go play running back anywhere right now, but he's invested into his family, his wife, his community, and I love Zach, and I'm proud of him, and so it's fun to see how we kind of all shake out with all these children of the Utah football program. But one common denominator, like you alluded to, was there are attributes that we have learned that contribute directly to our success.
You keep in touch with Tommy at all? Tom Hackett?
I do, not as much as I used to.
Okay.
We'll shoot text every couple months here and there, but he was sick of the limelight, and he wanted to just tuck back in and spend time with his family, and I want to respect that.
He was always so fun to interview because, first of all, just gigantic personality, right? Number one. The accent, people love the accent. But I always appreciated how, because when I would bring him on the show, I'd try to talk like football X's and O's and like, hey, the Kansas State is in town or whatever. Tell me. He's like, I don't really know a lot about football. He was like super honest about that stuff. But you guys had a fun little dynamic when he was punting and you were kicking. It felt like you guys were really close then. Is that fair?
Yeah, and we still are. I mean, and with Mitch as well. I mean, Tom, Mitch, and I think had a good experience. That was a great handoff as Tom graduated and Mitch came in, but. Yeah, similar introduction to the sport, I think, and we had Tom was taking over for Sean Selwood, who was a great punter.
That's right.
But came in and had to have special teams are what drove that 2013, 2014 team, in my opinion. Yeah. That was the heart of the team. The defense would probably disagree, and maybe I'm setting myself up for a dogfight here, but I think flipping the field and making our long field goals when our offense couldn't convert is what kept us in a lot of those games. And so we had an similar grind together, and I love Tom.
Good, yeah, good people. I miss having him on the show, but glad to hear that he's doing well. All right, since you have the experience of being a competitive athlete and having it come to an end, you can give us some insight on maybe what Kyle's going through based off of what you know about him, and you know him as a coach, you know him as a person, because Friday was crazy. The intro to the show is playing. We have this whole rundown set up for our Friday 4-hour block. As my intro is playing, the email spills in that Witt is stepping down. And so, little peek behind the curtain, I'm hitting talk back to Porter, trying to do the intro to the show. I'm like, we got to blow everything out. We got to throw the rundown out. This has to be the main deal. And then my first segment, and maybe this is me just being ignorant, it was just like a thank you to Kyle. Because as I referenced, whether you're in the media space like I am, Kyle's changed my life because of what Utah football is now as opposed to what it was when I was in school there in the 90s. And obviously he changed your life because he was your coach and a mentor. Anybody that's in the ecosystem just owes this man a big thank you. And then, boom, Mandel sends out this tweet like, oh, hey, he's not retiring. He's stepping down, and he's interested in other opportunities. The Tribune, an hour later, gets on the phone with Alex Whittingham. And he's like, yeah, he's not done. Like, he wants to contribute to another team and help them learn how to win. What's your understanding of what you think he's going through right now based off of just the competitor and the person that he is? And do you think we'll see an act two for Witt?
I wouldn't leave it out of the cards, and I think that's probably why he's stepped down the way that he has. Is he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Like I said, he operates in the shadows. He wants to keep his doors open, and so I wouldn't expect anything less than the bare minimum of information coming from Coach Witt. He's got a lot more in the tank, I think, and a lot more to contribute to society. And so I don't know what that looks like for him, or if he ultimately knows what that looks like. But having stepped away from 2 sports and sitting with that decision, whether it was my decision or not, is something that I think a lot of people don't have perspective on it. Like, it takes time, and we live in a world where we want information immediately, and we want decisions made quickly. And for Coach, I think, let's give him the grace to go through this bowl game, officially hand things over to Coach Scally, and then sit with this decision and see where he wants to go with it. I mean, I know he wants to spend time with Jamie. I know he wants to spend time with his kids and grandkids, and so that probably weighs heavily on him. Is can I balance that with another opportunity with another school, or with the Chiefs, or whatever it might be, or do I contribute more here at Utah as in the consulting or analyst role, and continue to aid Coach Scally as he takes over the mantle. When he texted me back, he said he's looking forward to some turns this winter, and so I'm excited to spend some more time with him and learn from him and pick his brain a little bit. But I don't know what it looks like. And I'm trying not to overanalyze, which we tend to do. We, as fans, as friends, it's like, hey, he hasn't said this, or this is what Stuart Mandel is saying. And by the way, Bill just had an interview with him. I think Bill had him on his podcast that just went out, so I'm excited to listen to that. But ultimately, I think we've got to give Coach the grace to sit with this decision for a little bit and not expect something to come from him. And not expect it to be the big bang that you might see with Lane Kiffin, or somebody like that. That's not Coach Witt. Yeah. And Coach has a lot more respect for himself and the way that he carries himself than something like that, which is what we're used to as fans. For
sure. Yeah, for sure. And, in the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week inundation of news information where everybody's refreshing their Twitter page. I mean, I don't do the job like trying to break news and be upset if I say something that's incorrect, because I get things wrong all the time. But I did want to follow up about what you said concerning Kyle, the family man, because in this space, in the competitive sports space, I can tell you I have heard dozens and dozens of players and coaches say, I'm walking away to spend more time with my family. I'm like, dude, you don't even talk to your wife. Stop lying. But when it comes to Kyle, I'll share a little insight. 2 years ago, because you guys practice in the afternoons, that's when I'm on air, and so it's hard to get coaches live. Usually if I get Witt, we have to pre-record at about 10 a.m. And in a pre-record situation, Porter's connecting us, I have the headset on, and then you bring Kyle on, and before we record, I just say, hey, really appreciate this, thank you, how you doing? We just kind of catch up off air. And he said, hey, how's your dad? And I said, he's good. He said, what is he doing? I said, well, we now have 21 grandkids in the Checketts family, and he and my mom are traveling around. I've got siblings kind of all over the country, and they're spending time with the grandkids. And he said to me, I can't wait to do that soon. And I went, okay, so 2 years ago. Now, I mean, the main takeaway was this actually does mean a lot to him in a way that maybe for certain competitive people, they don't give a rip about spending time with their family. Kyle Whittingham, the family man, what does that sound like?
Oh, I think it's spot on. If I look at the way, even in the heat of in the depths, I should say, of Utah football season, the focus was, how's your wife? How's Max doing? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had 2 kids while I was playing football at Utah, and I would. Jamie also plays a big role in that, and I would argue most of the coach's wife, Liz Scally, brought Megan under her arms and helped us navigate what was a really interesting experience of being in a master's program and being a starter at Utah football.
That's cool.
So my experience this year is what I can speak to most recently. I took both of my sons up to a practice. They each play Ute Conference football for Alta, and so I was able to take, it was great, both of them up on each of their birthdays, which are a week apart.
That's awesome, yeah.
And there's coach's grandkids in the corner waiting for practice to end. First thing he does after break is beeline it right to them. And he's with them, and he's saying hi to them. And I think that's maybe the biggest difference I've seen in coach's demeanor over the last 15 years of knowing him, intimately and personally, is that he has gone from, I don't know if I can say it on air, but like a hard ass to having a soft spot, especially for kids and grandkids.
Yeah, you can say hard ass on air. I will send people to my last interview with Sly, where he told the story of dunking on Greg Oden, and then used a phrase that I was afraid of as far as him saying that on air, but it turned out to be okay. All right, you and I have a couple things in common, kind of like Kyle does. You married a Cougarette, and your sister played soccer at BYU, and you're a Ute. I'm the oldest of 6. All 5 of my siblings went to BYU and married partners that they met at BYU. Whit played at BYU. He coached at Utah. So here's my question. I was doing a little research on coaches in the College Football Hall of Fame. The College Football Hall of Fame. Kyle's going to be in that. He will be in the College Football Hall of Fame. Obviously, he'll be in the Utah Hall of Fame. Will he be in the BYU Hall of Fame?
Oh, man. I guess it depends on who's making that decision down south. I think, like I said earlier, I think for the state of Utah and his history at BYU, obviously a phenomenal player, and the rivalry isn't what it is without Coach Whit.
Yeah.
And I think you have to respect that and you have to appreciate that. Now, whether that's deserving or not of BYU Hall of Fame, I don't know. But I would say yes.
Yeah. It's such a funny visual to consider, right?
It is.
Because if you just base it off of a BYU alum who's gone on to do great things, like he's a first ballot guy, you can't keep him out, right? I mean, if that's what you base it on.
Right.
I believe this, and Kyle himself said this on the show, there's been 103 BYU-Utah games. BYU conveniently leaves a few out because they lost those games. And Whittingham has been involved in like 50 of them, like half of them, which is wild to consider. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. You have to look. It's my argument for the Utah Football Hall of Fame. What has that player contributed on the field?
Yeah.
Or coach.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you look objectively at that, no doubt.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
should be there.
Last thing, and I'll set you loose. I've taken up too much of your time, and thanks again for joining us live on site. That's really
Hey,
nice
I work
of you.
down the road from here, so anytime you're here, just holler at me.
Okay,
I'll
perfect.
Come join you. I'll bring you lunch or something.
I prefer the visual of you working like an hour away and like coming out of your way, but I do appreciate you rolling in. I'm a big Morgan guy. I've known him for 25 years now. His older brother, Taylor, was a fraternity brother of mine, and just the nicest dude, right? And a Utah family through and through. If there was a Webster's dictionary definition of a Utah man, I feel like Morgan's picture would be right there. What are you expecting him to continue that's already been built, and what are you expecting him to kind of put his own stamp on this thing?
Yeah, great question. And to add to our conversation earlier, I think that's maybe why this handoff from Kyle to Morgan hasn't been as dramatic, is because it's like, hey, he's been here.
Yeah.
He is culturally aligned and purposefully aligned with everything that Coach Whit has done since he's been at Utah. Morgan brings a little bit more personality. He wears his emotion a little bit more on his sleeves. He's not afraid. The way he coaches is different. Coach has these one-liners, and he'll get in your face kind of quietly and be like, "What was that?" And Morgan is not afraid to shout it from across the field. They're both hyper competitive. They both, again, like Coach Whit, Morgan likes to be competent and understand everything as well. When he took over kickoff, he watched more film than I, in a week than I probably did my whole career, and so they're so smart, and they're both so similar that way. But culturally, I think things have to be different. You can't continue to have the same culture that you've had at Utah for 20 years, because you're not going to get a kid who comes in year one, has to develop for a year or two, and then starts.
Right.
If that kid doesn't get the job, he's probably going to transfer.
Yep.
And that's, I think, the energy that Morgan brings that maybe Coach Whit doesn't have or doesn't want to have is some patience. We were talking off air, but there's definitely a little bit of impatience, I think, that Coach Scally has had to, to suppress and learn how to just, ride it out, grind it out. He's a goer. He wants to get her done, and that's probably the biggest learning he's had over the last 10 years, and how to have patience, how to lead a little bit more like Coach has, but like Coach Witt has. But again, it's culturally it's going to be different because now you're dealing with money, you're dealing with impatient players that have to buy into a culture of we're gonna hyper develop you in a year, and we're gonna re-sign you for the next 2 or 3 years, and we want you to be a staple of this team for the next 4 years, versus a walk-on like me that you earn it. Hey, let's give you a scholarship, we'll give you lunch, and you can make whatever you want this to be for the next 3 years. Otherwise, if you transfer, you're gonna have to sit out for a year. It's wild. It's a different day and age.
No, I remember debating like a bagel was a snack and a bagel with cream cheese was a meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right. We've come a long way. Look, historic transition, so appreciate your perspective. Andy, be good. Good to see you, okay?
Yeah, good. Hey, if I were to leave a message with any of your listeners about what Coach, what is going to happen in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Just look at the analytics.
Oh, man. See, that still stings because the BYU loss this year cost us everything, unfortunately. But you be well. Best to your family, okay?
Thanks, Spence. Appreciate it.
Automatic Andy, one of the best to ever do it. Andy Phillips, good enough to give us some time on site today at 4594 South State Street at Tim Daly Infinity. And speaking of which, my guy once again, Terrence Thompson, stops by. Terrence, how are you, man?
Good. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. Appreciate the time. So, again, 4594 South State Street, Tim Daly Infinity. It's the end of the month sales event. What do you want our listeners to know?
Yeah, just want everybody to know that here at Tim Daly Infinity, we have our end-of-month sales event going on right now where you can save up to $9,000 off MSRP, or you can take our interest rates as low as 1.9% APR.
Very nice. Now, again, it is not and, it is or. So let's be clear. You can save up to $9,000 on MSRP, which is not nothing. They're good savings. Select new Infinity models, or interest rates as low as 1.9 APR for well-qualified buyers. We're also including 3 years of Infinity Care. Terrence, tell us about that.
So the 3 years of Infinity Premium Care, throughout the 3 years, you get your maintenance and servicing fully covered. As well as that, too, you have valet and loaner services available to you.
And valet and loaner services, it's exactly what it sounds like. Like if you're in the area, you guys will go pick up the car, bring it in, get it serviced, and bring it back, right?
Correct.
Man, that's some good stuff. All right, last thing, I want you to pick another car that is your favorite. Let's sell the people on one individual model. Like if they come in, like where's my guy Terrence, what are you going to sell them on?
It's got to be the QX60 autograph for sure.
Okay, tell us about that vehicle. What makes it great?
I would say the appearance, honestly. Everything about it looks amazing, especially on the road, too. Driving all the way up here from Vineyard, you just see a bunch of them on the road, and it's just such an amazing car. Looks great.
And I would imagine all these cars just rock in the snow, right? Gray winter vehicles.
100%.
Yeah.
These things move like tanks.
Love it, man. All right, thanks for stopping by. We'll chat again, okay?
Cool.
All right, Terrence Thompson, Tim Daly Infinity is where we're at, 4594 South State Street. Come on by and say hello. We will catch a break. We're going to bring in Tim McMahon from ESPN off the top of the 4 o'clock hour to talk some Jazz and some NBA Cup. Jenna Finch, who's the newest member of the KUTV family. Then we'll launch into the 5 o'clock hour of the program. We will say goodnight at 6 in time for the Alex Jensen Coaches Show. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. the legend himself, Andy Phillips, joined us live on site. Gave us about a half hour, which I really appreciated. Where's live on site on this Wednesday afternoon, you might ask? Well, it's Tim Daly Infinity at 4594 South State Street. It is a dramatic day of weather outside. It is raining, it is cold, then the sun will peek through. Expecting a little bit of snow in the mountains coming up this weekend, so hopefully the skiing portion of our community will be excited to see that. 4594 South State Street is where you find us. You can save up to $9,000 off MSRP on select new Infinity models, or you have to choose one of the two because they're both great deals. Interest rates as low as 1.9 APR for well-qualified buyers. Don't wait. Take advantage of the end-of-the-month incentives now at Tim Daly Infinity, where luxury meets performance. All right. I want to remind you that we will be at the Road Home coming up tomorrow. So ESPN 700 and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those of the Road Home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. You can drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer, where you visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home. It's one of my favorite things we do all year long. We're going to be at the Road Home both tomorrow and Friday on remote, so we would encourage you to come on by the location, say hello. It's one thing to call and donate, which we're going to be asking all of you to do, but when you actually see the faces of families and children up there just looking for a little bit of support and help, it hits different. And if you're looking for a place to safely donate this holiday season, so many of these nonprofits are like, hey, we have this cause, and then you write a check, and then the board takes a vacation to Cabo for a week, and you're like, hey, what happened to the cause? The Road Home is a safe spot to donate your money because it goes to where they tell you it is going, and they actually make a tangible, legitimate difference in our community. All right, most of the conversation today has been about the historic decision and the historic week and a half of Utah football and the conversation around Coach Witt electing to step aside and make way for Morgan Scalley following the New Year's Las Vegas Bowl. It is bowl season in the world of college football. Utah is a heavy favorite over Nebraska, who just lost their quarterback to the transfer portal. 16.5-point favorite last time I checked as it pertains to Utah over Nebraska. BYU headed to the Pop-Tarts Bowl against Georgia Tech, where they find themselves as a pretty slight favorite. A 4.5-point favorite last time I checked. BYU slight favorite in that game. Speaking of BYU basketball, weird situation last night. Where BYU basketball just curb stomped Pacific because, of course, they did. It was a bit of an ass-kicking because you would expect it over an NAIA team, excuse me. So BYU basketball, top 10 team in the country. They've spent a tremendous amount of money on their roster and their coaches, as we all know. That's no surprise. If you've been paying attention, A.J. DeBonsa is being paid $5 million for 4.5 months of his time. They essentially went down and stole the Rob Wright kid from Baylor. Rob Wright had a contract, and Scott Drew, the Baylor head coach, talked about this and how unfortunate it was and how angry he was and how frustrated he was that BYU kind of came in the back door and stole their point guard, Rob Wright, to the tune of a couple $1 million themselves. So it's no surprise that BYU basketball, based off of how much money they're spending on talent, investing millions into their roster and their coaching staff, would destroy a team like Pacific like they did last night. 93-57, 10-1 on the season. Their only loss, a really close loss to UConn, one of the best teams in the country. And so, look, it's the name of the game, and I continue to be very puzzled about the defensive nature of folks when it comes to BYU administration or even BYU fans to just not say the truth out loud. We all know that you're paying top dollar for your football and your basketball program. And by the way, congratulations that you have the ability to do that. Nobody's buying the propaganda walking line from media members that actually work from the school. They're like, no, they want the BYU experience. No, they don't. They want to cash checks. They're not looking at a map to see how many swigs per capita they can have as part of their college experience. That's not how this works. But the athletic director from Pacific, who, as I've learned, I guess has a habit of really popping off via social media. Sent out via Twitter last night, quote, tough one for Pacific tonight. Good scheduling lesson for the future in this money age we're in. No point in playing this game at all. You're not even playing a basketball team, just walking bags of cash. And, of course, BYU fans who like to pretend that these players go to Provo because they want to have crumble cookie in their life were upset. But he's not wrong. But, again, it's just simply the name of the game as BYU improves to 10-1 on the season with a big-time win over a really bad Pacific team, 93-57. All right, we're going to talk more NBA coming up in just a little bit. Tim McMahon will stop by for our NBA Daily Assist. But my man, Terrence Thompson, Tim Dahle Infinity, stops by before our final break of the 3 o'clock hour. Terrence, how are you, man?
Doing really good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Are you a local kid? Where are you from?
I'm here from West Valley.
You're a West Valley kid. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And tell me what you like most about working here at Tim Dahle Infinity where you're slinging some cars.
Man, it feels like family.
Yeah?
I think that's the most important part, too. I mean, working under Kuz is a great experience. And apart from that, too, I feel like our sales staff is super close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, too, you'll feel it when you're in our dealership as well. Just even as a customer, you're instantly going to be welcomed with love and everything like that. So
It's a really nice facility. It's a really clean facility. It's like a calm, has like a good feel. Smells
Yeah.
like Christmas. You guys have it decorated, all the good stuff, yeah?
100%.
All right, so give us the details as to what this end-of-the-month sales event includes.
Yeah, so here at Tim Dahle, we have our end-of-month sales event going on right now. So you can save up to $9,000 off MSRP on any brand new vehicle, or you can take the interest rates as low as 1.9% APR.
Cannot do both because they're both such great deals, but you can pick one or the other. And then with any purchase during this event, 3 years of Infinity Care included. What does that mean?
Yeah, so for the 3 years, you get all maintenance and servicing covered, as well as that, too, you get valet and loaner services throughout the 3 years as well.
Valet and loaner services, that's exactly what it sounds like. Explain that.
Yeah, so for the valet, if you live in a certain area or distance from the dealership, what we can do is pick your vehicle up from your home, bring it to the dealership, do our maintenance and servicing on the vehicle, and then go ahead and drop it back off.
When it comes to the maintenance, are we talking bumper to bumper? I mean, what does that look like?
No, it's going to be oil changes, tire rotations,
Okay.
pretty minor stuff like that.
Okay. Well, still a good deal. 4594 South State Street. Come on by and say what's up. Hey, good to see you. We'll get you back on, okay?
Sounds good.
It's our buddy Terrence Thompson out here at Tim Dahle Infinity at 4594 South State Street. Save up to $9,000 off MSRP on select new Infinity models. Interest rates as low as 1.9 APR for well-qualified buyers. 3 years of Infinity Care is included, which is scheduled maintenance, and that is all covered. Don't wait. Take advantage of the end-of-the-month incentives now at Tim Dahle Infinity, where luxury meets performance at 4594 South State Street, right here in Sandy. ESPN 700 and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. Drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer. Visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home. All right, before we catch a break, I want to tell you about my friends at Game Day Men's Health. All right, so here's the deal. As you get older, here's some breaking news, and I'm not even a doctor. It is harder to get in shape. It's harder to stay in shape. As it was, as it pertains to your process maybe when you're in your 20s. So I love that we have Game Day Men's Health on our station as a client because I can give you a personal testimonial and tell you how it's worked for me, and then you decide if it might be for you. So it's holiday season. If you're aging a little bit, you look in the mirror, you're like, man, I could really shed 10 to 15 pounds. I'd feel a lot better. Or if you're in a precocious spot, if you feel like you put on a lot of weight and it's adversely affecting your health, this is for you too. So a couple of years ago, just decided that I was going to do everything I could to get back in shape and get into the best shape that I'd ever been in as an adult. That was my goal. So cleaned up some habits, started to eat clean. Then I started to kind of either go to the gym every day to lift or go to yoga, and I would supplement those two workouts. And I thought over time that would really work. Well, 3 months passed, and I just was like, this is not working the way that it used to. It's not working the way that it did when I was a teenager in my 20s. I was kind of just telling a friend how frustrated I was about the entire situation. And he said, have you ever looked into supplementing your testosterone levels? And I'm like, no, I've heard about that, but I've never done it. He said, look, go to Game Day Men's Health, okay, and just get some blood work done, which is what I did. Okay, so here's the process. It is a free consultation, which is what they gave me. And the free consultation looks exactly like I just outlined. When it comes to a little bit of blood work, some levels, they'll go over your levels with you. And then they'll say, look, you're low here, okay, right here is good, but you're a little low over here, and here's what we can do to help you get back to a better level. And for me, that was supplementing testosterone and then utilizing their peptides. As I referenced, if you need to lose a lot of weight, they have semaglutide, they have tirzepatide, they have all like the in vogue weight loss stuff, but it's way more affordable with them because of the deal they're giving you as a result of them being a client on the show. And the deal is the free consultation, but then it is 50% off their first year membership, 50% off of everything year one. And year one, that's long enough for you to kind of get back to where you need to be. So you'll get 50% off a program that will up your libido, and I'll just leave that there, and get you back in shape. Now, you've got to work at it, right? There are no shortcuts here. But after utilizing their biohacking methods, within 3 months after that, I had met my goal. And about 2 years later, I've maintained it as a result of their processes. So go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. It's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. 4 locations, Lehigh, Pleasant Grove. Cottonwood Heights is the one I use. They have one in South Ogden as well. Make sure you tell them you heard me talking about it at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Free consultation, 50% off. Get back in shape this holiday season so you're not the dad who won't take off his T-shirt at the pool. 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Tim McMahon and Jenna Fink. That's your 4 o'clock hour on a Wednesday. Keep it here on ESPN 700. The New York Knicks are your NBA Cup champs. Our next guest is one of our favorites to talk NBA with. Hoop Collective podcast, the legend himself, Ben McMahon, on a Wednesday afternoon. Tim, happy Wednesday, man. How are we doing?
Howdy, partner. Doing all right. How about you?
I'm well. So I will, and I started the show off with this, I'm going to eat a little crow because watching the game last night, I was entertained. I thought it was fun. The players seemed to care and play hard. I don't know if I'm ever going to smash NBA Cup tape consistently throughout the tournament, but I thought the final was somewhat entertaining. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think the NBA Cup has served its purpose, and that's to add a little bit of juice to the start of the regular season. And look, James Dolan doesn't want to hang a banner because he doesn't want to do anything that would make Adam Silver happy. But I think that it's overall been a success. There's some tweaks that I would make. I definitely am glad that they're not doing these semifinals at a neutral location anymore. I think those should be home games. The atmosphere is definitely better at home. I don't mind that it looks like they'll be leaving Las Vegas after this year. Curious to see exactly what that looks like. The other thing is I do think the champion should get an ultimate tiebreaker. If you're not going to count the game in the regular season standings, fine, but give them an asterisk if they end up in a tie, regardless of circumstances. They win the tiebreaker. That gives fans something to root for beyond just, hey, cool, our team won something they're calling a championship, and these really rich players got a little bit richer.
I like that idea because I was Major League Baseball for years was a little too aggressive, awarding the World Series home field advantage to the winner of the All-Star game when it came to the leagues. But I was thinking, what could give this a little more juice? I do like that idea. What's the feel, Tim, around the NBA as to whether or not this idea, 3 years in, has accomplished the list of things they wanted to accomplish?
I think generally it's viewed very favorably. Again, one thing they're trying to accomplish is just get people talking about the NBA during football season, which, you don't have to like the courts, but you definitely notice them. And it's definitely been a subject of discussion. So I think that's been a great little marketing gimmick. I think the Cup has added a little bit of incentive for the players early in the season. The intensity of the games has been good. I think the ratings overall have been good. I'm assuming that when you have Wemby against a flagship franchise in the final, the ratings from that are going to come back really good. And, the other thing is it gives young teams like the Spurs, like Thunder last year, like the Pacers. I mean, these are three teams that lost in the final, but it gives them a little bit of experience of playing in games with something on the line, of playing in elimination games, with the stakes a little bit higher. And, I think obviously you saw with the Pacers and Thunder meeting in the finals last year, I think you can make the argument that experience has been helpful to some of these young teams on the rise.
So you referenced the Knicks' decision not to hang a banner. And look, I can tell you from firsthand experience, Jim Dolan is a sad, strange, petty little man, not to steal the line from Toy Story. He just is. So is this steeped in only the clear disconnect between Dolan and Adam Silver? And what sort of details do you have about this dynamic and how real is the icy relationship?
I mean, it's been icy. Dolan does things like sues people all the time, gets involved in, lawsuits with the Toronto Raptors over, whatever the whole thing was, proprietary information, which is like basic analytic data, all those kind of things. He's always at odds with the league office, and that's exactly where I took this. Because Mike Brown was talking about how great it's going to be to raise a banner to the Raptors at MSG, and then it comes out the next day, no, they're not actually going to do that. And so, it is a way for James Dolan to kind of snub his nose at Adam Silver, who apparently he considers an adversary, and, a nemesis, whatever the case may be. But my thing is this, dude, if the Lakers can find room in their rafters for the banner, I'm pretty sure a Knicks franchise that hasn't won a championship since I've been alive can find a little bit of space up there in the MSG Raptors. And, I don't think that this Knicks franchise that has gone through long droughts of irrelevancy should be the one that says they're too good to do it. The Lakers could do it. The Bucks, who have won a championship recently, they could do it. But the Knicks are too good. Come on now.
No, I'm with you. I mean, there's some Eastern Conference banners from the 90s, but, if you're going to hang up an Eastern Conference banner or a divisional championship, I think there's a banner when Billy Joel played his 80th concert at MSG. There's probably room for an NBA Cup banner if you know.
Yeah, no, but, again, Dolan versus Silver, whatever, and I agree with your take on Dolan.
So it does lend to the conversation. I mean, look, the Knicks had a good year last year. Ultimately, maybe some injuries don't take place. Maybe they take that proverbial step. Our old buddy Dennis Lindsey and Trajan Langdon have built a pretty good team in the Motor City, and Detroit is leading the East. And, Boston's been a little bit better than I thought they'd be. And, there seems to be just a glut of mediocrity. The Cavs aren't shooting it very well this year. There are other teams that maybe could make some moves to get in the mix. But, and I think the 4 Vegas favorites to win the championship reside out this way in the West. But, what do you think the Knicks can do this year? And is this anything they can utilize to maybe learn some lessons come playoff time?
Well, I was actually looking at some statistical projections, and those all have the Knicks coming out of the East. And, credit to Detroit. They are first place in the East, and they've got a 2.5-game cushion on the Knicks. Obviously, those teams met the playoffs last year with the Knicks winning what was a pretty tough series. But the Knicks have significantly, by far the best point differential in the Eastern Conference, which tends to be a pretty good predictor. And look, man, they've got a good squad of guys who have won in the NBA. They brought that whole team back, and when they fired Tibbs, it was very clearly a finals or bust type of declaration. That still remains true now, and I think more true than ever that you look around the Eastern Conference and you've got a team in the Pistons that doesn't have a whole lot of playoff experience, and then other than that, you've got a whole bunch of teams either with obvious major injury issues or some pretty serious warts.
When it comes to the potential, because you worked on a piece with our guy Timmy Bontemps, I believe, at least I saw it on your social. When it comes to the potential of the changing of the venues, are we inching closer and closer to something more official? And if so, what do you think it actually will look like, maybe as early as next year?
Yeah, Adam Silver on Amazon Prime last night mentioned the possibility of playing it in some storied college arenas or field houses, whatever the case may be. That's an interesting idea. Obviously, the first one that pops to mind would be his alma mater, Duke. I would have some questions about the logistics. I would have some questions about, hotel space and all those kind of things. If the NBA is bringing what they hope is a major event to a college town like that, or even Kentucky or Lawrence, Kansas, or whatever the case may be. But that's one idea that's floating out there. I have the idea if you win the Cup, you automatically get the right to host, not play in, but at least host the next year's championship game. My co-hosts on the Hoop Collective were not so much in favor of that. They like the ultimate tiebreaker idea a little bit better, but they're definitely considering other things. And I'll be honest with you, whatever gets out of Vegas is fine with me. I'm not a big Vegas guy.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I'm sure other people would disagree. And it seems like the NBA has embraced Vegas in a way that I never thought possible when David Stern was the commissioner. And speaking of which, Adam Silver made some comments that maybe NBA expansion on the table after next season. It feels like the obvious answers to that would be Vegas and Seattle. Is that what most people believe?
Yeah, and those are the two cities that he brought up. Talking about what great fan bases they have, great cities, blah, blah, blah. It's been assumed that if the NBA does expand, those will be the two cities. And honestly, that's another reason not to just have the NBA Cup in Vegas every year. Now, he basically gave himself a soft deadline of a decision being made next year. That does not mean there will be expansion next year. That's obviously going to be a process. I don't know what the earliest would be, 28, 29, whatever it is. But I still anticipate that expansion is going to happen in the NBA. It will be Seattle and Vegas, and the price to have have a franchise in those cities going to be awfully steep. We're talking like $6 billion plus per, which is, if you're going to get NBA owners to agree to split the revenue a couple more ways, and so instead of 1/30th, it's 1/32nd as their share, they're going to need a hefty sum up front, and I think they're going to get it.
The Milwaukee Bucks were not among the teams I listed that could be, living in the area of the New York Knicks come playoff time to try to come out of the Eastern Conference. They got blasted by 45 to the Nets. How does the Giannis thing end? I mean, is there really a market for him? Right. Well, of course there's a market for him, but
There's a market.
Yeah, absolutely. But with how bad they are, I mean, does it feel like this is something that's going to be decided prior to this year's trade deadline? And what do you think that looks like?
Well, and here's the deal. Really, the question is, Giannis, are you actually going to ask for a trade? Or are you going to do this passive-aggressive, gee whiz, I'm just not sure. I mean, come on, man. Like, dude, okay, no one's going to think you're a bad guy if you ask for a trade at this point. It's okay. Like, you gave everything you could to that city, to the franchise. You delivered a championship. I honestly think from a PR perspective, this half-in, pussyfooting that he's doing is a worse look than just come out and asking for a trade. So I don't think that maybe the Bucks just get to a point where they're like, hey, it's coming sooner or later. Well, let's just get it done if there's some value on the table. But they're in this kind of awkward thing where it feels like they're staying together for the kids and nobody wants to ask for a divorce. But, dude, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you this. I don't think Giannis is rushing back from this calf injury to try to save the Milwaukee Bucks.
No, absolutely not. We'll end with some Jazz, but before we get there, Ramona Shelburne doing some good reporting on the messy ending between Chris Paul and the Clippers. We are in a city where once upon a time the Jazz traded up to number 3 in the 2005 NBA draft, and a lot of people, including me, were excited about the potential of Chris Paul wearing a Jazz uniform. They go D-Will, of course, as history has indicated, and for a while those two were head-to-head, very competitive. Chris had a longer, ultimately better career than Darren, but what were your main takeaways with just how messy that thing got? And the Clippers owe their pick, as you know, unprotected to, the team that's off to the most historic start in NBA history. Is there a way out of this for them?
That's a great question because they owe their pick unprotected this year. They owe a swap unprotected next year to that same OKC franchise, by the way. My joke is AJ DeBanza is going to have to go to the OKC Blue in the G League next year to get minutes. And I'm only half kidding, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know how they get out of this thing. Do you see if there's any kind of value for Harden or Kawhi or even Zubats and just say, you know what, hey, kind of like the Brooklyn Nets did after the disastrous KG Pierce trade. Look, whether we give up high lottery picks or not, that's a sunk cost. All we're trying to do is save face. Let's do what is in the best interest of our franchise in terms of looking to rebuild. God, but man, rebuilding without your own picks because it's not. They still owe Philly for Harden too. It's a tough spot. I really have, good luck to them. I have no idea how exactly they're going to return the Clippers to relevancy. They will have cap space, I'll say that.
Yep.
They'll have cap space in L.A., but, L.A. is a little bit different when it's the Clippers and not the Lakers. But, that's their hope.
Is Chris Paul's phone ringing at all, or is this how he really is going to go out?
I don't know where his final destination will be. I know that the Mavericks and Knicks and Bucks had interest in him this summer. I can tell you I don't think there's a home for him in Dallas now, and it's nothing against him. It just doesn't make sense. They've got an undrafted rookie on a two-way that's starting the point guard and playing well. When they create a roster spot, it's going to have to go to him. I don't know. I hope for his – and look, Chris Paul can be a pain in the butt, breaking news. But only because he wants to win so bad, only because he holds guys to such a high standard. I don't know where Final Destination would be. Like OKC would be a great story. They're not going to bring in Chris Paul at this point, as much as they love him. And that is the one spot he went to where he is universally loved. But they're not gonna mess with the mix they have now. They're not gonna cut somebody who either contributes or they think has potential down the road to bring him in. Honestly, Charlotte would be interesting. I have no idea if there's any interest from them. I think there was at one point, but that you talk about a place that could use a little bit of a culture shock. It would be Charlotte. But I don't know. It will be a shame if his career ends this way. He at least deserves to go out on his own terms.
I do agree with that. All right, so if we move over now to stuff regarding the Utah Jazz, let's actually start with a story that I think is the place to start because it continues, and maybe it's time to say, like, whatever Will Hardy and Danny or Austin Ainge said to Keontae George at the end of last year must have led to some sort of reckoning for him in the offseason because he was borderline like, is this dude going to be in the league at the end of next year? And I just think it's time to say this kid may have woken up because so far it's looked really good for Keontae George and the Jazz. What are your thoughts?
No, he was obviously challenged. And even before the X interview, like they benched him last year. He got benched for a late first-round rookie last year.
Yep.
He responded the exact way that they hoped that he would, and he's one of the most dynamic young scorers, especially young scoring guards in the league right now. Like, this guy's averaging basically 23.5 points and 7 assists right now on pretty decent efficiency. I think he's still 22 years old. The other thing he did this summer is he put a lot of work on his body. Like, he is a significantly stronger player. But I think that you can look at Keontae George and say he is a piece of the Jazz's core moving forward. And they needed at least one of these young guys to hit like that because, honestly, over the last few drafts, they feel that way about Ace Bailey. Obviously, that's a lot of projection still at this point. But I don't know if there's another player over these last two drafts that they're really confident can be part of the core before Keontae George really stepped forward this year and made it clear that he is one of those guys.
They're letting Lowry play basketball, which has allowed Lowry to remind everybody that he's awesome. And as we inch closer and closer to the deadline, Zach Lowe was the last I heard talk about the fact that he still is hearing that Lowry is a player that could be had for the right price. And I hate to continue to revisit this with you, Tim, but unless you want to talk about whether or not Kevin Love will be a buyout candidate, this is an interesting situation. Yeah. Any insight as to what the Jazz may or may not do with either Lowry or anybody else prior to February's trade deadline?
I think he can be had for the right price, and I don't think the right price is lowered since they had talks with the Golden State Warriors a couple summers ago that didn't end up getting very far because the price was so high. They are not donating Lowry to somebody's cause without getting a massive haul in return. And I can just tell you, like, their talks with the Warriors, it was Podziemski, it was Kuminga, fill out the salary, and all the picks and all the swaps. That was the kind of price they're asking for, and you don't see a lot of those trades made anymore. So I mean, if you're asking me what do I think happens, I think that he's still on the Jazz after the trade deadline. I think he's on the Jazz moving forward. And, next year the Jazz are hoping to make a little jump in terms of competitiveness. Honestly, I know Austin Ainge said they're not going to tank it all this year. I'll believe that when I see it in March and April, given their situation with that pick. I would say it'd be pretty ill-advised strategy if they don't get creative to try to protect that pick. Given that it turns into dust if they don't give it away this year. I mean, also, God, can you imagine if they send OKC the 9th overall pick? Like, come on, man. But, your question about Lowry, yeah, I think they'll listen. I don't think they're looking to move him. And ultimately, I think they are going to demand so much that it's probably unlikely to get something done. But look, I can tell you right now, there's people involved with the Detroit Pistons that would love to see him there. Would they love it enough to give up the kind of haul that it's going to take to get him? I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah. Yeah, as of today, the Jazz are 11th. They'd have the 11th pick, which means they wouldn't have a pick at all. You got to hold on to that asset. All right, Tim, thanks, man, as always, for the time. Happy holidays to you and yours. Keep up the great work.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, the great Tim McMahon from ESPN covers the NBA, and when the Jazz are interesting, covers the Jazz. I don't know the last time he wrote anything about the Jazz because they're not very interesting. At Band McMahon on Twitter is where you get them. Yeah, as of right now, if the draft was tonight, which it's not, which is good news, the Jazz would not have a pick. They would have not. Well, excuse me. They would not have their own pick. They are 11th right now, and that pick would go to Oklahoma City. There are some pick swaps available. Of course, the Gobert and Mitchell deals are out there as well. But a reminder, it is top 8 protected. If the Jazz are 1 through 8, they hold on to the pick. If they're below that, it goes to Oklahoma City, which simply is not a thing that you can do during this rebuild process. That is an asset you just have to have. As we kind of inch further and further down the landscape of the college basketball season, most people believe that Darren Peterson has separated himself as the best prospect in college basketball. There's, of course, BYU's A.J. DeBonsa. There's Duke's Cameron Boozer, Caleb Williams, Nate Emmett, Kingston Flemings, Koa Pete, the Arizona kid, I think is a really good prospect. But look, you want a top 3, obviously. If you get Peterson, Boozer, or A.J., that's what you want. But even if it's 8, you got to give yourself, another bite of the apple. You cannot allow that pick to slip through your fingers. All right, live today at Tim Daly Infinity. It's their end-of-month sales event. It is 4594 South State Street. And our guy Terrence Thompson stops by once again. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. So tell our listeners what you want them to know about this event out here at Tim Daly.
So here at Tim Daly, we have our end-of-the-month sales event going on right now where you can save up to $9,000 off MSRP, or you can get interest rates as low as 1.9% APR.
You can't do both because they're both awesome deals, so you do have to pick one. And included in the purchase today is 3 years of Infinity Care. Terrence, tell us about that.
Yeah, so here at Infinity, our premium care services with any new vehicle. For the 3 years, you get maintenance covered. As well as that, too, you get valet and loaner vehicle services.
And that is something that they can kind of facilitate right here at the dealership, correct?
100%.
Okay, man. Very nice. Very nice. All right. Last thing. I've had you do this. I want you to sell me on one of these cars. They're all very nice. It's not snowing yet, but it's going to snow. And these SUVs have to be awesome during the wintertime, yeah?
Yeah. So my most favorite is going to be the QX80 for the wintertime with its four-wheel drive capabilities and stuff like that. It's perfect in the snow, reliable, it's safe. Yeah.
Gotta love it. And then, what did you say that there's like blue, like the navy blue interior? That's your favorite?
Yeah, so it's only exclusive to the Sport.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, very nice. 4594 South State Street. Come on by and say hi. Terrence, you're the man. All right, so we will catch a little bit quick break. Now, coming up on the other side, if you missed the announcement, we now have an official partnership with our friends over at KUTV. A lot of radio stations have TV partners. We've never really had one, so this is going to be a lot of fun. Going to be doing a lot of work with them, and they're going to cross-promote with us over here at ESPN 700. So we are going to bring in the newest member of the KUTV family, Jenna Finch, who has joined our market. We'll stop by. Then we'll get into the 5 o'clock hour of the program. Don't forget, we have the Alex Jensen Coaches Show tonight when we say goodnight on a Wednesday show. So keep it here on ESPN 700. Making Porter play Christmas music during all the shows this week, and I know it is not landing. Are you suffering through our bumps this week, or how you doing? You hanging in all right?
Yeah, I'm feeling festive in here with the Christmas tree and the lights. Okay. It's all good. It's all good here.
All right. Well, we are getting festive out in this direction, which is Tim Daly Infinity. You can find us at 4594 South State Street, and it's their, end of the month and end of the year sales event. Come on by and say hi. We're going to say goodnight at 6 o'clock. All right. Special announcement we made on the show last week. I have officially joined the KUTV family. That does not mean this radio show is going anywhere. A lot of inquiries as to whether or not I am leaving ESPN 700 and going to KUTV, which is not the case. The show will continue, and I'll do a lot more television over there with KUTV. We've got a podcast that we're going to announce coming up soon, and one of my new coworkers joins us from Tucson after a very successful run. The newest member of the KUTV family joins us now, Jenna Fink, on a Wednesday. Hello, Jenna. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Good. Thank you for having me on.
No, I appreciate the time. It was good to meet you at lunch the other day. Let me just ask you your first impressions of our market, and did you have any experience with Salt Lake City prior to joining the team?
Yeah, so it's been great so far. Been here just a couple of weeks settling in, and already got to go to a Jazz game, which was great, and just getting to explore the city a little bit, and it's really awesome. And I had actually been to Salt Lake one time before, back in 2024, when I was covering Arizona and Tucson. They played the first and second rounds of March Madness up here, so I was able to come up, spend a few days there, a lot of time at the Delta Center for March Madness, and it was a lot of fun then too.
Tell us about kind of your, from what I've read about you, and you're on social media. We'll get all your social channels out there. You have your own website. You were always a sports fan, right? Even as a young girl, and you figure skated competitively as well. So tell us just kind of about your journey, like when you first got into sports and when you knew that this is what you wanted to do with your life.
Yeah. So I grew up in Dallas. I've been a Cowboys fan, so Dave and I have that in common as well. Mm-hmm. But always loved the Cowboys growing up, and both of my parents work in journalism as well. My mom was in radio for a long time, and my dad's in TV, both on the news side. But I kind of saw this industry through their lens that way, and used to go on my mom's radio show as a 9-10-year-old and predict Dallas Cowboys games, the outcome every week. And I was pretty biased towards the Cowboys as a 9-10-year-old, but that was kind of the first way that I learned that I could work in sports media. And so that was my introduction to it. And I went to Syracuse University for it in upstate New York. And that was an amazing way to, cut your teeth and learn everything that you need to know about the industry. And, yeah, I was a figure skater. I did that all growing up through high school, and then I even did it on a club team in college. And I'm really excited to get back out to the ice rinks here because in both of my first two jobs, it's been warm climates where there's no ice rinks. So I'm excited to get back out on the ice, dust off the skates. They're a little rusty.
I was going to ask you, I was a basketball player as long as I could be, which led me to learning my place in life when I played against, actual pros. But I still like to get out and play a little basketball here or there. Do you like to get out and find a rink and see if the skills are still there?
Yes, definitely like to as much as I can. I don't quite jump anymore because it hurts to fall. I've learned as you get older, it's a lot harder on the body when you fall, but I still like to get out there and do as much as I can. And I'm hoping, I think there's a part of skating that I used to do. It's called synchronized skating. The best way to describe it is kind of like a dance team on ice, doing different formations and stuff. It's really cool. But I'm hoping to join maybe like an adult team out here too, so that would be really cool.
Here are my thoughts. We find an adult team for you to join, and then Dave has to skate with you in a team competitive format. What do you think?
I think that's great. We'll get him out on the skates for sure.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I've got to ask you this. My old producer here at the station is a Newhouse snob. He is a Syracuse grad and a Newhouse snob. Now, look, the proof is simply in the results. It is among, I said among, because I'm going to give you the opportunity to say the best journalism school in America. But I've got to ask you, are you one of those Syracuse products that has do you wear the pride on your chest as far as your education?
Yes,
Good.
I bleed
Good.
orange. I'm very
Good.
proud Syracuse Newhouse alum. I worked at W8ER2, their radio station. They're very proud to come through there. And like you said, there's so many talented sportscasters who have come through there, and just to kind of learn from even people that were, a couple years older than us, and also hear from a lot of those that have come through that are now on the national stage. It's amazing just, how good of a school it is. You said one of the best. I'll come back and say the best.
There it is.
But yeah, very, very proud to be a Syracuse alum.
There it is. And I'm a Northeast boy, so I get it. And and I say it with respect. I just used to tease my old producer that Arizona State was a better communication school that just would drive him nuts.
They definitely have the weather advantage.
Mm-hmm. Did you consider any other spots, or when you got into Syracuse, you were like, this is a no-brainer. I'm heading there.
I was considering some other schools too, but one of the things that actually made Syracuse appealing for me personally was they had a skating team, so that was part of it too. And then I also got a second major in the business school, so they had like a dual program that kind of integrated the journalism and business schools nicely. So that was kind of part of it for me as well. That was a big factor.
So you come to us from Tucson, and Dave put you to work. I've been watching, and you've been to, you're already on the beat. What do you know about kind of the sports landscape in our market, and what are you kind of hoping to learn as you spend your years here?
Yeah, well, the first thing that stands out is just how much is here and how quickly it's been growing with, of course, the Jazz have been here a long time, but the Mammoth coming in, and then you have Legacy College, BYU and Utah, and so many other Division I schools up here, too. Like I was up yesterday at Weber State for their new head coach that was hired, and he was a high school coach here. So it just shows you kind of, just even in that hire, how much local talent there is and how much there is to cover here. So really excited to kind of get into more of that. I've already gone, like I mentioned, to a Jazz game and gotten to go up to Weber State, so looking forward to doing even more of that, and just really getting to cover these teams in depth.
Okay, it is. If I was your professor, I would tell you this is a question that I simply have to ask you, and you're going to have to be able to answer it. If you're going to be in the media landscape here in Salt Lake City, what do you know about the Utah-BYU rivalry?
Yes, the Holy War.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was up here actually right before that happened. I know it's the biggest rivalry, and it's a great game. I'm looking forward to covering that. Don't know too much about it yet, but we'll definitely be getting to know more of that as we'll be covering it next year. I know it just happened. It's kind of like Territorial Cup for us was a big deal, Arizona ASU. So I'm sure it's that even more.
Yeah, and we've really become this massive college football market in a way that we weren't. I mean, I'm a Utah alum, and when I was there in the 90s, we were very much a basketball school. And yes, now you know how old I am. I've outed myself. Is there anything, because I was looking at your socials and your website, you've covered a lot of different things, World Series, bowl games, Final Four. Is there anything, Jenna, that you have not covered that's kind of on that bucket list?
Yeah, with one, Super Bowl is on there, and then this is harder, but Olympics. Being a figure skater, I'm always kind of interested in the Olympic sports, especially Winter Olympics. So really excited to, with Milan coming up in 26, and I'm sure there's a lot of athletes from Salt Lake who are training in Salt Lake for that. So it's going to be cool to kind of cover that a little bit more in depth, and then. So those are like two of the biggest things on the bucket list, but also just covering some of these big games, like covering BYU Utah. That'll be on the bucket list for sure too, because of how hyped up it is and all that.
What ultimately, when it comes to a competitive athlete like yourself that is well educated and has already done a few pretty cool things, early on in your career. Is there I know your generation, I'm supposed to say manifest, so we'll just use that. Is there like an ultimate big-time Jenna Fink goal that you want this career to turn into?
Good question. I feel like it's changed over the years, too, but I've always, growing up in Dallas, I love football. So, I'm really excited to be here and be here for a while, but ultimately, would love to do something with NFL.
Very cool. Very cool. Jenna, where can I've got your Twitter pulled up. I still call it Twitter. I looked at your Instagram. Where can our listeners go find you? What are your social media touch points?
Yeah, so social media on X and on Instagram is at Jenna M. Fink, M as in Mary.
Okay, very nice. Well, welcome to the market. Thank you so much for your time today. Look forward to working with you throughout the years.
Yeah, excited for it. Thank you so much.
All right, Jenna Fink, the newest member of the KUTV team, at Jenna M. Fink is where you can find her on social media. And I am also a new member over at KUTV, so she is my coworker, very talented young lady who once upon a time was an excellent competitive figure skater and has worked in Tucson and joins our market directly from there. So let's give her some – I just followed her on Instagram and Twitter. Let's welcome her to our market and give her some support as she kind of learns the ropes. All right, live today at Tim Daly Infinity. It is their end-of-the-month sales event where you can save up to $9,000 off MSRP on select new Infinity models. Interest rates as low as 1.9 for well-qualified buyers. Terrence Thompson stops by once again. Now, let's be clear. You can't get both of those, right? You have to get one or the other.
Correct. 100%.
Is there one that's better? If our listeners are looking for a little inside info, is there one that's better than the other?
Honestly, it depends on the person, really, and what the end goal is.
Okay.
So, I mean, in my personal opinion, I would 100% take the 1.9% APR.
Mm-hmm. Or you can save $9,000, whatever your process looks like. Speaking of the process, kind of educate our listeners a little bit. They roll in here. They ask for our guy, Terrence. What does it look like from there?
From there, it's really just the Infinity experience that we give to every single one of our customers. It's the best experience, least painful, easiest ever, and plus, two, you get to save a lot of money at the end of the day.
And even if they can't stop by today, does this deal go through the new year? Is that kind of how the schedule is going to work?
Not at all. Till the end of the month.
Till the end of the month, and that's it.
That's it.
That's why they call it the end of the month sale.
So you better take advantage of it now.
Okay, so it's 4594 South State Street. Tell us about the 3-year Infinity care that is included. What does that look like?
Yeah, so the Infinity Premium Care is included with any new vehicle purchase. For the 3 years, you get maintenance and servicing covered, as well as that, too, you get loaner and valet services provided to you as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you've already explained this, but radio's not linear. We have listeners now that we didn't have earlier. So what does the valet service look like? What exactly does that mean?
So the valet service, honestly, it's a wonderful service. So if you live in a certain distance from the dealership, what we do is we pick your vehicle up from home, bring it to the dealership, we do our maintenance and servicing, and then we just drop it back off.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Luxury vehicles, great in cold weather because the snow's on its way, right?
100%, too.
Love it, man. All right, man, thanks for stopping by, okay? Appreciate you. Terrence Thompson out here at Tim Daly Infinity. It's their end-of-the-month sales event, which is 4594 South State Street. We'll catch a quick break, get you ready for the 5 o'clock hour of the show. Say goodnight at 6 in time for the Alex Jensen Coaches Show. So keep it here on ESPN 700. segment here of the 4 o'clock hour of the show. Excuse me, before we launch into the 5 o'clock hour of the program on a Wednesday, Alex Jensen Coach's Show will come your way tonight to talk some Utah basketball. The running Utes in their first year under Alex Jensen continue their progress, which is going to be it's going to be a rough ride, I think, for a minute. Alex is rebuilding this thing literally from the ground up. Conference play is right around the corner. Eastern Washington will be at the Huntsman Center coming up on, I think that's Saturday at 5 o'clock. And then on to Big 12 play. No, one more game actually out of conference. That's at Washington. And then you launch into the Big 12, and I think this year it's probably the best basketball conference in America. It was probably the SEC a year ago, but I do think that's the Big 12 this year. So stay tuned. You'll hear from AJ coming up. Bill and Alex Jensen will have that for you. We're live today at Tim Daly Infinity, where you can save up to $9,000 off MSRP on select new Infinity models. 3 years of Infinity care included. Scheduled maintenance covered. Interest rates as low as 1.9%. So come on by. Really nice people, ready to help you get into a new car. If you have waited all year to buy a car, well, you're the winner because Tim Daly's got great offers at 4594 South State Street. All right, coming up tomorrow, it is one of my favorite things we get to do all year. Oftentimes when you're the host of a sports talk radio show, you're like, am I really affecting the world positively at all? Probably not. But tomorrow and Friday, that's our goal, as we will be at the road home. So ESPN 700 and the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. Drop-off donations at any Rocky Mountain Cup Chevy dealer, or visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home this holiday season. We'll be at the road home tomorrow and Friday. All right, we'll catch a quick break. Final break of the 4 o'clock hour, 5 o'clock hour of the show. Then we say goodnight for the Alex Jensen Coaches Show. So keep it here on ESPN 700. It. You found the greatest Christmas song, I mean, probably ever written, if we're honest, and, you know, one that does not receive near enough love. So I'm very proud of you for tracking down the most inspirational, most melodic, with pleasing harmonies, the best Christmas song in the history of Christmas songs. Nice work.
The best of all time, huh?
Well, that's not me. That's just other like music experts that think that.
It's kind of consensus, you say?
Yeah. Okay. It's not my opinion. Dave Matthews.
For you.
Yeah, little Dave Matthews. Is that just called like the Christmas song?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, just the Christmas song there. It's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, not my opinion, but the greatest Christmas song of all time. All right, Porter, when we're on remote, it is hard to kind of go back and forth with you because I don't know if you're busy pushing buttons. I don't know if you're busy doing push-ups or doing back stretches with your bands. But before we say goodnight, well, real quick, are you doing any of those things right now?
Not at the moment. No, not at the moment. I'm just pressing buttons. A lot of buttons that have to be pressed in this final stanza of the show. Almost too many buttons. So that's what I'm focused on now. I'm gonna stretch and work out after the show today.
Okay, fair enough. Got a little yoga in earlier. Still dealing with some back and shoulder stuff. Nobody gives a rip about that. Andy Phillips, I think 7th player since Friday. Does that feel right to join us to talk about Witt?
Yeah, I want to say at least one a day and a couple. I think 7 or 8 that have joined us this week.
First of all, no clue that dude didn't play high school football. I mean, that's a badass story where he was watching Utah football's kicking struggles and was like, I can do that.
Yeah.
Soccer player goes out to high school, just has a highlight tape put together. And Jay Hill was like, yeah, I think you have potential. And he turns out to be, he's probably one of the top 3 kickers in Utah history, if we're honest.
Well, and it's not all, it's unique, but it's not all that unique to Utah. You think of Matt Gay, you think of Tom Hackett, Mitch Wisnowski, obviously another kicker, but these are all guys who don't really have traditional football, American football backgrounds, and became really, really good kickers. Louis Sakota, another one, although he kicked, that wasn't necessarily his main thing growing up. So, man, it just goes to further prove the thing we've talked about with this program, that they can identify talent, and it doesn't really matter where it is, whether it's in your foot or your hand, right? Throwing the football, kicking it, playing linebacker, they're going to see that talent somehow on the basketball court, on the ski slopes, I guess, and they're gonna turn it into some sort of production as they have with all those guys.
Yeah, it says a lot about Andy, the confidence in himself, and just the willingness to put yourself out there, which I think is a really cool story. And then, being a competitive downhill ski racer, like it's one thing if there's pressure, if you shank a kick, your team could lose a game. You see those videos of like professional skiers making one error and you're like, did they just die? Are they okay? Like those ski crashes are serious business, man. Like I would imagine his nerves being sharpened in that sport really allowed him to not view pressure of missing a kick as really anything that's all that big of a deal.
It's got to help. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You see, as you mentioned, the difficulty of really doing anything at that elite of a level. But something like skiing where you're shooting down the slopes, right, really a dangerous excursion in its own right, and you're trying to make it more dangerous by beating time of someone in front of you, it's got to help with the pressure, with the, especially when you're a kicker, right? When you're an offensive lineman or a linebacker, you've got your assignment, you've got your reads, you go and do the thing. When you're a kicker, it really doesn't matter what the play is, what the reads are, what the progression of the game is. It's just you, the ball, and those 2 posts, right? Now your holder and snapper and all of that as well. But for a kicker, man, it really is a you versus you. If you can dial in and everything else is kosher, it's a solo sport, if you will, as a kicker. And, you got to imagine being a top-flight skier or – I don't know, a tennis player, a golf player, something with that level of one-on-one dynamic. It's got to help a lot, and it seems like it did for Andy.
Yep, for sure. And the first player who has joined us that actually thought Witt would step aside. And, when it comes to the conjecture out there, and I want to be clear, in my opinion, based off of my just kind of knowledge about how these announcements work, the odd timing of a Friday afternoon announcement. And I thought Monson, I thought he raised some very fair points yesterday about, are we going to get a press conference to give Morgan his due? Maybe Morgan doesn't give a rip about that. And we know that Witt is not interested in some sort of fanfare situation. It's just not in his nature. I will say that I do think the Las Vegas Bowl, for any fans that maybe felt jobbed that we didn't get to do anything when K-State was in town. That is an opportunity for you to, make the 4 or 5 hour drive to pay your respects to Utah's football coach. I don't know that I am comfortable grilling these players about whether or not there's anything there. When it comes to all of the rumors about whether or not Kyle wanted to step down, or the relationship between Kyle and Mark or Kyle and Morgan, I think with the players, it's just a better idea to stick with the whole what it means to Utah football, just out of respect,
No, I think that it's the right way to approach it. Kyle deserves it, right? Even if he, as he imitated long ago, wanted it to be quiet, wanted it to be, right, you'd get a press release on a Friday, and there'd be no fanfare, there'd be no farewell tour, there'd be no big hoorah or party or send-off celebration. That's what Kyle wanted. That's what Kyle got. That's always going to bring a little bit of conversation about, what else is there, right? But ultimately, I think that he also does deserve, whether he wants it or not, he deserves that respect from his players, from Andy Phillips, from Robert Johnson, who we'll have on the show later this week, from all these players who have been impacted by Kyle as a football coach, as a man, as a mentor, as a leader. Hey, even if he's not listening or maybe not wanting the tributes, we're still going to put him out on the airwaves, because I think it's a football coach that has as big of an imprint on the sport in this state as anyone, right there with Lavelle, right? So, yeah, no, he deserves it, and I think it's a good way to approach these player interviews, of which we'll have a few more this week.
Whit listens to this show every day. All 4 hours. If
Live.
he can't get it in his car, he goes home and downloads the podcast.
Right.
You know that Kyle listens to this show every single day.
Well, I thought so. I just didn't want to speak for him, but Kyle, I'm pretty sure the whole Jazz staff does. We got listeners all over the place, and I know they're some of them are in some high places.
I got a DM from LeBron the other day. He was like, "Nice interview with Zach Moss." I was like, "Thanks, LeBron."
There you go.
That didn't happen. All right, Jazz off tonight. Back in action, speaking of LeBron, against the Lakers and Luka, if they decide they want to travel, although they did last time. College football going on right now, Old Dominion, South Florida, so it is bowl season. Pumped for tomorrow night's Thursday night football game between the Rams and the Seahawks. Should be a good one. All right, Porter, before we say goodnight, what comes our way on a Thursday edition of The Drive, live from the road home?
On a Thursday, as you mentioned, live from the road home. I'll let you tease that on the way out. We'll chat with our friend Britton Johnson. We'll talk some Utah running Utes, and maybe some thoughts on Whit and the football program with one Britton Johnson. A couple days ahead of their CFP matchup. That's right, Tulane in the CFP. Our guy Sam Bruckhouse joins the program. What a year to bring him in as a weekly guest, right? Tulane now in the big dance. And then we'll finish it off. Our guy's favorite event, Smitty, will be there on site at the road home with you for the final hour.
Very nice. Penny for Jake Retzlaff's thoughts, by the way. But anyway, maybe we'll effort to get Jake on the show. Porter referenced tomorrow, we will be at the road home. It's one of my favorite things that we get to do all year long. It's both Thursday and Friday. We will be asking for donations. You can also stop by and say hi. And I always recommend that. So it's the Road Home Connie Crosby Family Resource Center. It's 529 9th Ave in Midvale, pretty close to the freeway, so very accessible. And if you stop by, you'll be able to see the faces of the families and the children that we're trying to help out, just get back on their feet. So ESPN 700, the Rocky Mountain Chevy dealers, invite you to help those at the road home this holiday season with needed blankets, coats, shoes, hats, and gloves. You can drop off donations at any Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer. And visit ESPN700sports.com for dealer locations. Spread the warmth and help others find their way home. I'll be on TV with Dave tonight, 10:35, KMYU. We call that 5 Questions with Spence. So join us over, with our friends at KUTV. Special thank you today to our friends at Tim Daly Infinity, 4594 South State Street. Come on by and say hello to Chris Comrani, Andy Phillips, Tim McMahon, and Jenna Fink. Thank you to them as well. Check out the website, ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app. Take us on the go. It's available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. And then support our podcast page if you like what we do in the afternoons for 4 hours every day. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It is available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments. Give us all the stars. Reporter, I'm Spence saying good night. Have a good Wednesday evening. Enjoy the Alex Jensen Coaches Show. And we'll talk to you both Thursday and Friday live from the road home right here on ESPN 700.